Lara,
Here.
Mrs. Oliver. Mrs. Oliver. Okay, we'll get back to
I
her.
don't
Still
think
trying to
so.
call her.
She was
Mrs.
in
Cordero.
closed session, but she's trying to get back right now.
Yeah, okay. Mrs. Cordero,
Here.
Mr. Hollinson.
I'm here. All right, so we'll go ahead and stand up and face whatever flag you got.
That one right here on my wall.
Take your earphones off so you don't go all My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Ready? Yeah. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have inspiration tonight, but I'm looking at all these really great poems. And if it's
A call out from closed.
what's that?
A call out from closed.
Oh yeah, sorry, call out from closed. We did item 3A, conference with labor negotiators, CSEA. Information was shared. And item 3B, conference with labor negotiators regarding SMEA labor information was shared. And the one thing we want to impart is that the main portion of that information that was shared was the MOUs that both groups have entered into right now, and also the exemplary work that all our staff are doing in both certificated and classified, and rising above and beyond what the call has been for this, and our great appreciation for all that they're doing. Oh, I do. Yeah, so in regard to the public comment, due to COVID-19 and that pandemic, the resulting executive orders issued by Governor Newsom, and regarding procedures for transparency and participation by members of the public at public meetings, state and local legislative bodies have been provided flexibility from certain Brown Act requirements. Specifically, the executive order allows agencies to hold public meetings telephonically or otherwise electronically, and waive requirements for the physical presence of members in order to participate or establish a quorum. Meetings held electronically must allow members of the public to observe and address the meeting electronically. These flexibilities for the Brown Act remain in place while public health officials have imposed social distancing measures. The Santa Maria Bonita School District agenda for the April 8th, 2020 regular meeting was posted on the website on Friday, April 3rd of 2020. So at the times designated, public comment will be read by Mr. Ontiveros as to those pertaining to agendized items or general comments. On calendar of upcoming events, activities, we have a regularly scheduled board meeting on May 13th for now, and we'll hopefully be able to get that taken care of then. Mr. Ontiveros, do we have any comments for public comment right now?
We do have some
For
public.
non-agendized?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So I'll read into the record the public comments that were submitted according to the guidelines and the governor's executive order. The first comment is from Marissa Cantu. And her comment is, will teachers start teaching actual on live classes now that we are going into this long term? And that is something that we're working on as we're defining distance learning. The next comment is from Francisco Lozano on a non-agenda item. And it says, so I'll read, good afternoon, members of the Board of Directors and the Superintendent. As part of the Mixteco Advisory Committee, I am sad and worried at the same time with the crisis of the big pandemic COVID-19 we are facing. A lot of families will not be supporting our children adequately. What will happen to so many children who are not connected doing homework? My girl is one of those who has this problem that does not have this problem. She has been connected to the Chromebook to do the work since the school closed. It took a lot of instruction. The teachers know how many children are connected per day. She must have a list of how many do not connect and call the parents, what is happening, and count how to provide assistance. And speaking of the Mixteca community, even if they say that there is support from the school and the district, and the district really does not, there is a way to do it verbally on the radio, on television as Telemundo or Digital Time, on YouTube, on Facebook, on video. We have trilingual interpreter resources to get the message across. I know it's a great job, but we need to do better communication. From Francisco Lozano, take care. We followed the recommendations of the health professionals. Thank you and good evening. And those are the public comments on non-agenda items.
Okay. And, move to have the agenda as presented, and there is an additional action item. It's resolution 19-23, I believe. So I'll move to approve the agenda as presented and amended without addition.
John, this is Linda. The icon shows that your microphone is off. I did not hear what
Yeah.
you just said.
Here I go again then. Thank you.
There you are.
No, I could hear me here, so I thank you for that, Linda. So we're going to move to approve the agenda as presented. There is an additional item in the actions items, resolution 19-23. So I'll move to approve the agenda as presented with the added item.
And I'll
I'll
second that.
Everybody second it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I moved, and then I'll give Linda credit.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The agenda is approved as presented and amended. Consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll
I
second.
Linda, and then Ricky one. Sorry, Vita.
No problem.
Move to approve the consent agenda by Linda and seconded by Ricky. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Flores,
Hi.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Cordero,
I can barely hear you.
Mr. Hollinshead.
Aye. All right, we'll proceed to action items. Item 8A, naming of school number 21, Dr. Grady.
Hello.
Hi, Patty.
Evening.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Doing well. How about yourself?
You know what? I can see a halo over my head. Wait a minute.
You mean like this, Patty?
Right. Yes, I think the halo kind of got there because they know who the angel is in this crowd, right?
Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I actually quite like this format. So I don't have my mask and gloves on. So let's get started. I do have a PowerPoint. And before I get started, I want to make sure that I recognize those that are in the committee that are actually here on Zoom with us. Colleen Lathry is joining us today. She's on the committee. Linda Cordero, of course, has to be there, huh, Linda? And then Summer Long is also joining us today on as a Zoom on the committee as well. So I want to recognize that before I get started.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
So Brian's got my PowerPoint down there somewhere. I don't know when oh, here.
Here
Here.
it goes. There it is.
Hey, Brian, you are on it.
He is.
Okay, naming of school number 21, April 8th, 2020. You can go ahead and switch it over, Brian. Okay, perfect. This slide right here in front of you is just a very, very, very quick review of what you already heard at the March 11th email. As you know, we started with 138 names. After the first meeting was over, we were able to get it down to 100. And the second meeting we had on March 2nd, we were able to we started with 63 and we were able to get it down to 46 names. So the last time we met as a group face to face, we eliminated 46 names. Let me correct myself. The last time we met face to face as a committee, we had 17 names remaining on the list.
Right.
Where I'm going to pick you up right now. So there were 17 names. Okay, Brian, we're good to go to the next slide. Oh, can I do that on my own? I probably could. I see that little thing down there. Okay, since we last met and all face-to-face
Yeah,
meetings
I see it.
cut off, the work didn't stop. We kept going. Matter of fact, I think Linda actually gave me extra credit for being so persistent. I was constantly giving them emails. So when we last met on March 11th, we had 17 names. And so on March 17th, they actually had to report out to me of those 17 names. They had to give me their top 5. So top 5 out of 17. So on March 17th, they got an email from me with their top 5. And it came down to, of the 17 names, only 10 were voted for. So down at the bottom there, they got exactly that verbiage. Here's your 10 names that are left on the list. You need to email me and tell me that you want to continue to advocate for this name and give me a rationale why. Or tell me at this time, I'm going to go ahead and remove that name from the list. Does that make sense? So 10 names I got to see. They're telling me now, I'm fighting for this name, I'm going to advocate, and they had to write a rationale for me, or go ahead and remove it, Patty. So next slide. So we got down to 10 names. They told me their top, that we got down to top 3. So March 27th, I took those 10 names and they gave me their top 3 now. So the end of March, we're at top 3. April 1st, they got an email from me and they had to take their top 3 and prioritize them. Which is your 1, which is your 2, which is your 3. April 2nd, they got another email from me with their top 3 in order of preference. And what I did with them is I sent them an email and I wrote, what did I do? I wrote up a little bit about the top 5 names, the rationales that were presented to me by the community rationale. So I gave them each the top 5 names, the name and the rationale from the community. And then they had to look at those top 5 with a picture attached to the slide, some rationales, and now come back with their top 3. And on April 2nd was the last time they got to. So April 2nd is when I had to wrap this up and get our top 3 going so I could submit it to Maggie by April 3rd, which was Friday, for the board packet. So that's where we are now. So next slide. I'm now going to go through the top 3 names that you saw in your board packet that the committee at this time would like to recommend to you for consideration. William Bill Libben, elementary school. He grew up in Santa Maria. He went to Oakley Elementary. He went to a couple other schools. Maggie got some additional information on that as well. He's executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Maria Valley for over 40 years. He dedicated his professional and personal life to enriching the lives of youth in Santa Maria, and he currently resides in Santa Maria. So this was one of our top 3 choices for the committee. Next slide. Pleasant Valley Elementary School. Pleasant Valley Elementary School was the first schoolhouse built in Santa Maria Valley in 1869 and operated for 66 years. It opened in 1870 with 15 students, and the land was donated by Martin Luther Tunnel. And actually, the original place for this school was where Allen Hancock College is now. Then there was some land donated where the Enos development is now. So that schoolhouse was picked up and moved over to the Enos development. It was there that they eventually moved it to the Enos property, and I did this last little line just for Matt Beecher. Matt, they built this school in 3 days, and it cost $510. See, Matt,
I read that.
like it closed in
Didn't have any
1935,
trouble passing that
and
bond.
it ended with
Yeah.
66. And now it currently was bought by a family in Buellton, and it is now in Buellton on their ranch, and it's being used as a living history museum. So that's Pleasant Valley Elementary School. Our third name that we're bringing to you tonight is one of these combinations. Enos Elementary, Enos Ranch Elementary, Joseph Enos Elementary. The board can kind of choose, if they chose Enos, which way they want to go with Enos. As you know, Joseph Enos, he bought the land from the Smith family. The Smith family was the one that was the architects and built the White House that's currently there now. Joseph Enos bought the land from the Smith family and raised his family on this land. He also bought actually from Los Alamos to Bull Canyon. He also bought 7 other pieces. He had 7 kids, so they all had their own ranch, but Enos Ranch was just one of them. He purchased the property where the school is being built in 1904. And now the reason behind the Enos recommendation and rationale from our community is that's exactly where the school is being built now, on the Enos family ranch. So next steps is, at this time, I would like for the Santa Maria Bonita School Board to please accept the school naming committee's recommendations for school number 21. William Bill Libben, Pleasant Valley, and Enos, Enos Ranch, and Joseph Enos Elementary. Now, due to our no contact order, I have contacted about 15, 16, 17, 18 individuals from the community that submitted names, and we went back and forth all weekend. And Maggie, I believe you provided the board, they weren't comfortable zooming in to advocate. So I believe, John, should I let you do the next step after this?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I believe what we do now is each name, as I correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but each name is allowed about 15 minutes to discuss the rationale why this name was considered to the board. So whatever order, we can take the very first one, which was Bill Libben Elementary School. We had 8 individuals that chose to write in on an email. I don't know if we got 8 emails, but Maggie, we were able to print some of that for the board members. I see your head going like this. And you should have emails in front of you that
Yep.
are the individuals that, should this board meeting be live, would have showed up to advocate for Bill Libben. So, I mean, I don't have anybody
Luke-
showing up live for Bill Libben tonight.
No, and Luke has those to read.
Oh, okay.
And
Got it.
and what I will do is read into the record those that were part of the groups that Dr. Grady interacted with. And so this first letter is a recommendation for Bill William Libben for the name of the 21st Santa Maria Bonita School. And it reads, "To whom it may concern, this letter is in reference to my recommendation in naming the new school after Bill Libben. I have had the honor and privilege of knowing Bill Libben for 48 years. I am the eldest of his 7 children. I'm very proud of my father and have seen firsthand and saw dedication and love not only for his family, but for the community. It is awe-inspiring to witness how everyone looks up to him and loves and respects him. It seems everywhere we go, someone always knows my dad, from the grocery store to the mall, even just going for a walk. They always stop us to say hello, and 90% of them tell us a story about how my dad has changed their life for the better and has been a positive influence on the person they have become. He is also the most amazing and dedicated father and grandfather. I have had a front row seat to see the love and dedication my father has not only for his family, but for the vast contributions he has made to the community of Santa Maria. He started working with kids in the community at the age of 16 as a volunteer for the Parks and Recreation Department and was a playground leader at Fairlawn School for 3 years. Some of the things I can remember start with his 40 years of working for the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Maria. During his time, he watched over 40,000 kids come through the doors. He started a variety of different youth programs and mentored generations of kids and became a father figure for thousands of youth within the community, some of which became business owners, teachers, and for example, 12 are currently police officers for the Santa Maria Police Department. He is also currently in charge and an advisor for the Boys and Girls Club Alumni Committee. He also started the flag football program in collaboration with the Santa Maria Bonita School District and the Orchid School District. In addition, he's also helped start the ACES after school program with the Santa Maria Bonita School District, which inspires children to learn in a safe space after school hours. He has received several acknowledgments and awards throughout his career, including Service to Youth Award, 3 times Outstanding Youth Development Professional, Pacific Region for the Boys and Girls Club of America, Santa Barbara County Action Networking Families Award, selected to throw out the first pitch at several Little League games, honorary Grand Marshal in the Elks Parade. My father has also volunteered and been a part of several things in the community, including serves on the Play Board for the City of Santa Maria, former member of the Red Ribbon Committee, former member of the Rotary Club, served on the board for Westside Little League, graduated from the Santa Maria Citizens Police Academy, coached youth basketball, soccer, football, and flag football, volunteers every year with the Rotary Club at the Christmas Parade, and coached Special Olympics. Even after retirement, my father has taken a position with the City of Santa Maria working with adult and youth sports. He continues to make an incredible difference in the lives of kids and adults in the community and considers them his extended family. My dad deserves this honor to be recognized by his community, not only because he is my dad, but also because of the person he is to so many others. He is a mentor, a leader, father figure, friend, dad, grandfather, amongst many other titles. He always puts others before himself. He has changed so many lives with all he has done and continues to do so, and has never asked or expected anything in return. He deserves for his legacy and his name to live on in the community. Thank you for considering him for the name of your new school. Sincerely, Christina Libben Flores. A second recommendation from that came forth from the committee recommending Bill Libben. Bill Libben worked for 40 years with the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Maria before he retired. How many thousands of children have passed through the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Maria? Bill was an adult, but also a friend and a mentor to these kids. I grew up a few blocks from the Boys and Girls Club. All the kids in my neighborhood and a lot from the schools I went to spent time at the club. We all knew Bill. Some children looked up to him as something was missing from their lives. I think they should name the new school after him because of his dedication to the children of Santa Maria. Even in his retirement, he is now working with the Santa Maria children through the city. Thank you, Joe Marks. And then there is a third recommendation that came forth through the committee. Hi, my name is Lily Flores. I just wanted to express why I nominated Mr. William Bill Libben to be chosen for the name of our new school in Santa Maria. I'm a Boys and Girls Club alumni from 1998. Soon after, I became an employee of the Boys and Girls Club, where Bill and Anna Libben gave me my very first job as a young adult. Bill Libben has dedicated his entire life working with children as the director of the Boys and Girls Club and retired executive director of the club. Bill is an incredible, loving human being. Every child at the club knew exactly who Bill was. He was not one to only spend time in his office. Bill spent hours interacting with the children every day. He would sign up for tournaments and play alongside the kids. The children looked forward to beating Bill in a game of ping pong or a soccer table tournament. But Bill wasn't only about fun and games. He implemented ways for them to become involved when it came to education. He highly encouraged homework hours. Many kids needed all the support from staff, as most of their parents worked long hours building the American dream. He would add incentives to keep the kids engaged. He provided snacks for the kids, even if it wasn't snack time, because there was no way he was going to let a child go hungry on his watch. He always implemented programs, highly benefiting club members of all ages. He was thoughtful in the ways we could engage everyone to be more involved and love what he did. He made everyone feel like the club was everyone's second home and always treated everyone with love and respect. He knew every member by their first names and became friends with their parents as well. Trust was a huge deal, as you can imagine. This was a place people had to feel safe to allow their children to attend. He knew the kids really enjoyed returning to the club every day. He made sure every department was always fully staffed and supervised, ready for fun activities for the kids to enjoy. From the game room, where we ran fun tournaments every day, to the library for homework hour, the computer lab for technical support, to the arts and crafts room for crafty activities and art contests. to the teen room where you had to be a teen to be able to enter to give the older kids a safe and comfortable space of their own. They had full supervision from our great teen director at the time by the name of Eddie Galarza. He also dedicated his life to guiding the young adolescents and teaching them great work skills and leadership to succeed. Lastly, but not least, the sports department where kids loved spending hours in the gym, staying active and healthy, playing nonstop sports like basketball, kickball, dodgeball, and so many other fun activities kept many children happy. These are just a few of the things that made Bill sure we're up and running on a daily basis. He took so much pride in what he did, and he was great at it. Bill was loved by everyone, not just the club members, but by others in the community. I vividly remember after club hours, Bill would have company like Judge Rogelio Flores and sports directors. They would enjoy having some basketball fun in the gym. That was always really nice to see. It showed how humble he was and how he was a pleasure to be around. He is a man of integrity. After so many years of his involvement and dedication in our community, how he has created many precious memories for so many people throughout the years, nothing would feel more honoring than to see a school be named after this great man who well deserves it. Those are the comments issued by those members from the committee in support of Bill Libben.
Okay. We move on to Pleasant Valley.
Yes, Pleasant Valley, we have two individuals. Luke, I believe you have one email on Pleasant Valley, and our second one, there was only two people that submitted Pleasant Valley, and they're both speaking tonight. And then Diane Arkinson, Maggie will go ahead and make a phone call to her, and she'd like to speak into the board through a speaker.
And so what I will do is I will read the email that came in while Maggie's connecting Diane.
Got it.
So this recommendation to the SMBSD school board from Bill Shipsey refers to a January 5th, 2019 story in the Santa Maria Times, which is printed here and recounts the history that Patty provided in the overview. And I will make sure that this gets copied and sent to the board as well. The story has a 1928 photo of the school at the southwest corner of Nance, which in parentheses is Bradley and Battles Roads. Please print that to share with the committee. The historical connection to the new school site is the primary standing for naming the new school Pleasant Valley Elementary School. When Santa Maria was planning the Enos bus property before annexation, state school siting standards did not permit schools to be planned within 1,500 feet of US 101. Therefore, the proposed new school site was further west than the original Pleasant Valley School. Sincerely, Bill Shipsey. And the article shows the picture that Patty included in her presentation and includes the history that Patty reviewed as part of her summary. Some of the additional things, besides the fact that it only cost $510, which Mr. Beecher was pleased to hear, Dr. Grady. It indicates with Joel Miller as the school's first teacher, the 15 students who showed up when the school was officially opened in early 1870 sat on benches lined up against the walls. The public school district known as Santa Maria was formed, and Rudolph D. Cook, George W. Battles, and Joel Miller were appointed as trustees, with Mr. Battles serving as the clerk of the board, a position which he held for about 15 years. Joel Miller served as the school's teacher until the school came under schools and state laws and required a teacher who had passed an examination and held a certificate to teach. Mr. Miller taught for about a year. With neither books nor a place in which to obtain them, each child brought books from home, with some even printed in a foreign language. One child brought in the family Bible. Later that year, the district was able to secure official textbooks and copybooks such as Green's Grammar, Robinson's Arithmetic, and Monteith's Geography. Students used quills for pens and furnished their own work. With a $100 donation from Paul Bradley, a 12-foot addition was made to the school in 1874. The building grew to 48 feet long and began to be used for such events as community meetings and religious services. When Bill Smith stepped in and offered to donate a one acre parcel of property located on what was later Battles and Bradley Road, he put in a proviso that the property would revert back to heirs when it ceased to be used for school purpose. That proviso was destined to cause major problems down the road when the school finally closed its doors in 1935. In 1985, Dr. Roger Icola, intending to create Heritage Park, purchased a school building plus 2 residents and moved them onto his property near Santa Maria Way, just east of the Highway 101. While the park never materialized, the building fell into disrepair until the larger residence of the 2 was sold and moved out to Sisquoc. The other building was destroyed. In 2007, the old Pleasant Valley School was sold to Tina and Paul McEnroe, who moved the building onto the Rancho La Purísima in Buellton and immediately began its restoration. Today, the Pleasant Valley School, now relocated to Buellton, being fully restored, is used to conduct living history days when children from surrounding communities come to school dressed in period clothing and interact with Tina McEnroe as she conducts classes much as they did in the school's early days. That's some of the additional history that wasn't shared as part of Dr. Grady's presentation. So at this point, I believe I'm looking at Maggie's picture. She has Mrs. Arkinson on the phone. And so we're going to try and connect her. So if Maggie will unmute.
All right, Diane, you can start speaking.
Okay. Hello, my name is Diane Carell Arkinson, and I'm here to present a valuable story about the Pleasant Valley School and why the name Pleasant Valley School should be given to our new Santa Maria Valley Elementary School. Pleasant Valley School was the first school to be built by our settlers, and it was lastly located on the corner of Battles Road and Bradley Road. Many streets in Santa Maria bear the names of families whose children attended the school. Built in 1869 for $510, and these monies were raised by our community. The size was 30 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 10 feet high for ceilings. The size of the building was determined by how far the voice of the teacher could be heard. The exterior color was probably white, and the materials to build Pleasant Valley School were shipped from San Francisco to Port Hartford, that's near Avila, and 8-horse teams were used to haul in rainy weather. It took 4 or 5 days to get the materials, which is probably redwood shiplap, down to the valley. There were no books, so the students brought their books from home. Oh, and this is great. There was a girls' entrance and a boys' entrance. Joel Miller was the first teacher, and they actually called him Uncle Joel. And Thelma Battles completed the task in 1935, and I'm sure they called Mrs. Battles Mrs. Battles. So after educating our children for 66 years, I feel that the Pleasant Valley School name must be given to our new Santa Maria Elementary School. Oh, and by the way, a belfry was added a little later on, and Margaret Enos is said to have the bell. And even though the new school does not have a belfry, we can look and locate the bell. Our children, our educators, our community will be reminded of our educational heritage by naming the new school Pleasant Valley School. I urge a unanimous vote for the new school name, Pleasant Valley School, and I thank you for the privilege of presenting you with the information about Pleasant Valley School. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so, and then is that the conclusion of Pleasant Valley, Mr. Ontiveros?
That is.
Yes, those
Okay.
are our only two for Pleasant Valley. And now I get, Luke, you now have for Enos.
Oh, there are.
Okay, so we're going to read into the record public comments for the Enos on behalf of the Enos name.
Recommendations for the others as well.
Okay. And then also there'll be additional public comment for the other choices.
So before I begin reading the public comments, Dr. Beatty, is there anything else to add from the committee work?
No, actually, my item is good. Now it's just public comment and that's it.
Okay, then with that, Mr. Holland said, if you're okay, I'll go ahead and read in the public comments that were submitted as well.
Yeah, and then I think there's.
Did we read for Enos?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No,
So this is a public comment submitted by Linda Bailey relative to this item. And
Mr. Ontiveros, I'm sorry.
We
I don't
didn't,
think you read the submissions for Enos.
no.
I didn't receive any submissions in my packet in support of the Enos name.
Okay.
It's solely the public comments that were submitted.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
maybe what we'll do is maybe we can find those. Okay, Maggie's looking, so you can go forward with that.
Okay. So what I'll do is go ahead and start with the public comments. And what I'll do is I'll save the comments for the Enos name then until the end. And when Maggie reconnects with the additional information, we'll do that. So what I'll start here, this is a public comment in reference to Pleasant Valley School submitted via email. And in reference to the name Pleasant Valley, it says the name is perfect. The next few comments are in reference in support of naming the school in honor of Bill Libin. This comment is submitted by Marta Cuevas Broberg and reads, I would like to recommend the naming of the new school to Bill Libin. I've had the privilege of knowing Bill for 50 years. I met Bill when I was 5 years old and he was a Parks and Recreation leader at Evans Park. Years later, I had the opportunity to work with Bill at the Boys and Girls Club in Santa Maria. This provided me with the opportunity to witness Bill's love for children and families for the community from a new perspective. Bill has joyfully seen and touched the lives of new generations that came to the club, as well as tearfully been there for families when they lost a child. Bill has always given of his time to the children of the Santa Maria community, and I feel that Bill should be honored with the naming of the new school. The next comment from Adon Flores reads, Bill Libin should be recognized for his contributions and dedication to the community. He has been a role model for thousands of kids. He is someone I look up to and admire. He lives his family and considers the community of Santa Maria family. There is no one else deserving of this honor. The next public comment is from Anna Libin. And it states, I would like to thank the school board for considering Bill Libin as the name of the new school. I know firsthand his commitment to our community, mainly the youth. He is a kind and humble man who would be honored to be recognized in this way. Bill has given 40 years of his life to the youth in our community. He is respected and loved by everyone he has ever mentored, coached, and worked with. It would be an honor to have the school named for such an outstanding member of our community. Thank you. The next comment is submitted by Diana Perez. And it reads, I'd like to thank the Santa Maria Bonita School Board of Trustees for allowing the community to voice their opinions for the naming of the new school. I'd like to support Bill Libin for a number of reasons. Bill Libin was a finalist during the naming of Jimenez Elementary. There is a reason his name is on this finalist list once again. That is because the majority of residents are aware of his lifelong dedication to students and families in Santa Maria. In fact, Santa Maria is a better community today because of the number of lives he touched. While Bill Libin may not have the historical appeal of the other choices, Mr. Libin has had the direct impact of influencing the positive outcome of thousands of lives. We have an Enos Street and Enos Ranch Commercial Center. Please do not bypass Mr. Libin once again. We can honor in life a truly legendary Santa Marian who gave his life to public service and to the betterment of many Santa Marians. Please support and vote for Bill Libin. Sincerely, Diana Perez. The last public comment in support of Bill Libin is submitted by Jack Bingham, and it reads, please name new school after Bill Libin, a hero in our community. And then here is this is the recommendation for the Enos Ranch Joseph Enos Elementary School. And it reads, to the Santa Maria Bonita School District Board of Education from Robert Sly, care of Dr. Patty Grady, Chair School Naming Committee. Dear board members, I'm delighted with the names the committee has forwarded to you for your consideration. As someone who continues to be deeply interested in the history of the Santa Maria Valley, it is appropriate that this newest school should carry the Enos family name. It is located on the former ranch that Joe Enos purchased in 1901. The homestead is also located very close to the new school, a home that was established in 1871 by Billy and Sarah Jane Smith. More importantly, it is always critical that we remember the pioneering spirit of our ancestors who came long before us. We often lost track of their major contribution to the establishment and growth of this wonderful city and valley. Your committee's dedication to remembering those who preceded us is precisely what makes Santa Maria the favorable location that it is. I certainly know there is always pressure to name schools and location after those who contributed to our growth and education in the recent past. Though their accomplishments certainly make them deserving of such recognition, we cannot forget those who blazed the path to make our area what it is today. Therefore, I heartily endorse any of the wonderful names this committee has put forward to the board and commend them for their hard work and diligence. With respect, Robert A. Sly. And in support of that committee member's recommendation, these following public comments are contributed in support of the Enos name. The first is from John Padfield, and it reads, I would love to see the Measure T school named Enos Ranch School. The next submission is from Andrea Ford, and it reads as follows. Hello, my name is Andrea Ford. I'm a born and raised Santa Maria resident. I'm 37 years old, and I can proudly say that out of my 37 years, I'm sorry, this one is in support of Bill Libben. That was out of order. So I'll hold that one till the end. This next is submitted by Jeanette V. And it reads, I think Joseph Enos is a great name for the new school in Enos Ranch. This next submission is from Carrie Battles Edwards, and it states, Enos is the perfect name for the new school. Don't ask not to be read. This submission is submitted by Linda Bailey, and it says, I like the suggested new school name be Enos for the property owners it sits on. And then this one has no comment. And then, so those are the comments in support of the Enos name. And then there are 4 other public comments in support of the Bill Libben name. The first from Nestor Frosto, which reads, my name is Nestor Frosto. I currently work for the Boys and Girls Club as an ACES program specialist for the Santa Maria Bonita School District. I'm born and raised in the Santa Maria Valley, having attended K-8 in the Santa Maria Bonita School District at Oakley Elementary and El Camino Junior. As a former club kid, I remember going to the Boys and Girls Club and knowing that Bill Libben would be there. He was the constant in the lives of many kids growing up in the Santa Maria Valley. Although I went to the club to have fun, there were many friends that went because they knew they could count on him to always be there. He was their safe haven, home away from home, and that person that genuinely cared about them. When you think of the school and what it means to the community that it serves, it should have the same impact that Bill Libben has had on our community. I've worked with students in our district through the ACES program for the last 11 years, and I've learned that they may forget the name of the activity you had them work on last week, but what they don't forget, the impact that you've had on them. When I think of Bill Libben, I think of the positive impact that Bill has had on my life, knowing to this day that if I needed his help for anything, he would be there in an instant. The new school will have a positive impact on the lives of the students that walk through its doors, regardless of its name. But what better name than after the man that has already had the positive impact on our community? Thank you for your time. And then finally, there are 2 more comments in support of Bill Libben. This from Linda Tovar. It says, Bill definitely has been a great asset to this community and for our youth. He deserves a school being named after him. And then finally from Erica Mendoza Rios. I strongly believe the new school should be named Bill Libben. Bill has been a prime example of amazing community service and has encouraged many young adults to follow in his steps. Bill never left a child behind and still always wanted the best for the kids. Bill very much deserves this recognition, and what better way than naming the school after him? And that is the completion of the public comments.
And those were all submitted later today.
Yes, or before today at 3 o'clock.
Was there one from Andrea Ford? Did
Yes.
you read that one?
I read that one, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that's completes the public comment portion of the discussion. Dr. Grady, you've given us all your information at this point, correct?
I have, you have, and thank you, Luke, for doing that, and Maggie organizing that, and you have everything you needed from the committee.
Okay, and I kind of open it up, I think, to the rest of the board as to what their feelings are in regards to some of the nominations. Dr. Grady, I wanted a little bit of clarification, excuse me, if I could, from you. At the previous meeting, we had talked about board policies in regard to naming, and one of the names that was brought forth seems to conflict with a couple of those, being named after either a street or a development in the area. And so I was wondering how the Enos Ranch nomination managed to be brought forward with those in regard to those board policies that would have seemed to have refuted in the past.
And I believe in the board policy, it says that if the development was currently and already named after the Enos Ranch prior to the committee and school being even considered, the name can make it in, the name is acceptable. I believe that's what the board policy says. That was called Enos Ranch prior to us buying the land and choosing to build a school there.
Okay, so it doesn't
And
have.
correct me if I'm wrong, board, but I believe that's the limitations.
You are correct, Patty. That is how I recall it as well. And if you give me a moment, I can actually reach my policy.
Because I know it's not directly.
Because John, you're exactly right.
But there's.
We did talk about this in the committee as well, and how did it fit into the limitations? And Linda will pull that up for us.
Okay, and because I think it's important to clarify, not just for us, but for anybody else who's part of the discussion, because that's definitely the most prominent part of that.
Okay, would you like me to read it to you?
Sure.
Okay, limitations. The board has placed the following limitations on names suggested and will not accept any suggested school name which violates these limitations. A, no school will be given the name of a commercial development unless the name existed in the area prior to the development. No school will be given the name of a street on which it is built except by explicit recommendation of the committee. So I think, as Patty explained, the submission of the Enos name does not conflict with either of those limitations.
Because the property itself was known as Enos Ranch and predated the development.
Exactly.
Okay, I just wanted that for clarification, because that was my first question, as it was with other folks who were asking about the nominations. I just also wanted to enter into the record Mr. Ontiveros, Dr. Karamitso's support for Pleasant Valley. She was not aware of I didn't make her aware she was on call of the time constraints regarding submission for public comment.
Okay.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Or initiate the discussion?
Awesome.
Having participated on the committee, it was, started off to be very interesting. And as I think I commented previously, Dr. Grady is quite the taskmaster. She kept us very focused on what we needed to do. And while we all were able to provide input via email, the fact that we did not meet and have back and forth conversations in some ways, I believe, somewhat stifled the process, if you will. Although we were encouraged to give any support or input when we provided the listing of names that, you know, we were supportive of and the reasons why we were. But one of the things that after seeing the end result of our voting, if you will, I was not surprised, but something which I may have broached earlier, you know, to the committee had we had the opportunity to speak is I personally am, while I admire Bill Libin, I know him well, and I appreciate everything that he has done in our community. And I think he is very deserving of having a school named for him. The historical aspect of naming the school is very prevalent in the naming of so many of our schools. And it occurred to me that we could even, if this is possible or allowable, incorporate both Pleasant Valley and Enos into the name of the school by calling it Pleasant Valley Elementary at Enos Ranch. And I realize that, you know, could be controversial, but I think by putting the two together, it cements the historical part of it. Just the name Pleasant Valley, when I saw it on the list, it was like, just another cute name for a school. But once it, and I told Dr. Grady this, I either, you know, fell asleep during a part of the review of all of the names, or I don't know, but I did not realize until after we were no longer meeting face to face that the reason that that name was on there is because it was the name of the first school in Santa Maria. And the fact that it is being built essentially in the place where it spent the majority of its lifetime, I think is a really significant historically for our community. And by adding on at Enos Ranch, you won't have people going, Pleasant Valley, you know, where's that? Or why is it called that? And I just think that really lends itself to the innovation and the many things that are so different already about our 21st school. So
Thank you.
that's my spiel.
Rita? Yeah.
I've been raised in the area and have gone to school in the area. And it's really interesting to me. I went to Cook Street School that doesn't exist anymore. It's the police station and the fire station. And so I look at the names of the school in two ways. One, in the perspective of children that are attending the site. They're attending a new, beautiful building that's different and honorable and full of gain. I mean, they're going to go there, be the first ones there. And I look at it also in the vein of someone who's lived and been around this city all of my life. And in doing that, my first career job to ever start my role and my path to education was at Fairlawn School. And I got assigned to this kid. I was just a kid too, but to this kid who was going to be my boss. And guess what? It was Bill Libin. So I've kind of grown up around the
contributions that he's made along the way. This new school is a contribution. You know, the history.
She, we lose you, Vita? Vita. Oh, Vita. Linda, can you phone her?
I will send her a text.
Yeah, thank you. Ricky, while we're waiting for Vita, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, you know, Pleasant Valley, I think is a great name because, like I said, it's historically goes back to the first school in our valley. But you know, Bill Libin also is I think a great name because he has touched a lot of people, and I am one of them. You know, I go back 45 plus years knowing Bill. We're gonna have a tough decision here, but they're really good names here. It's gonna be a tough one here.
Did we get you back, Vita? I can see her there, and she's in a different pose, but I see no.
I don't see her.
Nope, there she moved a little.
I can hear. I just
Okay.
don't know where I went. All of a sudden, I'm talking.
You're back.
Down. Okay. So, like I was saying, I'm not sure if you can see me or not, which doesn't matter, but my voice is still there. But I would strongly like to look at this school as a William B. Libin Elementary. I'm not sure where I got cut off either as I was speaking.
You were perfect. And then Ricky was speaking in your absence, and
oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I think he was advocating. Actually, I won't. You speak.
Me?
Ricky, tell Vita what you were talking about. I don't want to speak on your behalf.
Oh, Bill Libin is a good name for the school. You know, he's done a lot for this community. But you know, I'm torn because Pleasant Valley, that's where Santa Maria Bonita School District started. You know, that was our pioneer first school in the valley, and that right there, Pleasant Valley is taking everybody that lives in our district. You know, it's representing everybody, every nationality, and everybody that's here in the valley. So I'm honestly, I'm torn between the two.
Let me. Can I
go ahead.
Ask one other clarification? And I think I don't remember, or who might know this. Is there another building or anything else in the district named after Mr. Libin?
At Jimenez, I believe
that I know of.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Was not the gymnasium at Jimenez named after him? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can anybody clarify that?
Maggie doesn't. Maggie's looking at. She doesn't think so.
No. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I, in regards to what you were discussing, Mrs. Cordero, for those exact reasons, I feel strongly that Pleasant Valley would be a excellent name. The historical perspective, honoring our teachers, and it being the first school in the district on what was then sounds like the Smith homestead before it was the Enos Ranch. I do have a difficulty with attaching Enos Ranch to it because I feel like, then it's, let's go to Chick-fil-A at the Enos Ranch. Let's go to school at Enos Ranch. It really gets an attachment that's part of the development and the strip mall next to it and all the other, Cracker Barrel and all that stuff. I think that the Pleasant Valley as standalone might be maybe a little better. And in regards to Mr. Libin, it sounds like he's a very deserving individual, but we also have a lot of very deserving individuals from within our district that have been part of the district and given equally over the last 35, 40 years. So that's a tough one to choose one person rather than some other very worthy folks.
John,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying about, adding the Enos Ranch at the end of that. But in my thinking is that by putting it together, you tie the whole piece together historically. And Pleasant Valley, I mean, you still are going to have to explain, to anyone coming into Santa Maria, but by putting it together, linking it to the actual property, that really cements the significance of the school. And not only that, but it also helps in a little way of visualizing even where the school is. But I hear what you're saying about, the commercialization of that area.
Well, there's a pretty sizable footprint for the Enos name in the city. I'm not sure that Diana, that Mrs. Perez doesn't have a good point, that there's quite an extensive demarcation or kind of notice of that name and contribution throughout the city. Ricky, do you have any thoughts, or Vita?
I still will support Bill as my choice. Basically, again, I think the kids, again, through a child's perspective, would be honored to be in support of or be in attendance at a site supported with someone with such integrity. And he's alive.
And Mr. Holland said we do have Mrs. Oliver in on phone. She's
Okay.
been listening in.
Good. I think that's what that. Jody,
Yes,
there you are.
I'm here. I spoke a minute ago.
Well, we didn't hear you. Can you speak again?
Oh, I don't remember what I said.
Neither do we.
I'm sorry. What is it that you wish me to speak to?
Did you take in the discussion of the various?
I've heard the whole discussion.
There you go. So did you have any thoughts that you wanted to contribute in regards to those nominations?
No. I think that you guys have covered it very well.
Okay. I don't know. It doesn't sound to me like we're necessarily ready for a vote. Ricky, you had some kind of two thoughts that you were.
I'm gonna go with Bill Libin, going over my thoughts and everything and processing. I'm gonna go with Bill Libin.
Okay, so I think we're kind of a little bit at a difficult point here. It sounds like we're kind of almost split up the middle.
How about Mrs. Oliver?
Jody, do you have a particular favorite of the three nominations brought forth?
No, I don't. I think they're all equally valuable and deserving.
Okay. So now let's try to arrive at consensus. Is it safe to say that we have positive feelings towards Pleasant Valley and Bill Libin then as 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say yes.
And a one to choose from those two. Because I don't know that we're not on a specific timeline, but we don't want to do this all over again.
Yeah.
So I think I feel pretty strongly about the Pleasant Valley name. And I think, that maybe to what you're advocating, Vita, and what some of the other folks who've written in are advocating, I can't speak to having, as I always say, being a relative newcomer to the community of only 26 years or so, can't attest to some of those historical members of the community. Certainly, I know more of the folks who are within the district.
Right. And I think we did hear from a lot of people in regards to supporting Bill also. And I didn't realize he was also in the running for the other school. That was something I didn't even know. So
And
his name has been out there for a while. If I'm understanding that correctly.
was he a finalist, Patty?
Yes, he was.
Yes, he
That's
was.
what I'm
I believe
understanding.
that.
that
He was
the
one of the
finalist
top
too.
3 at the Jimenez schools. Yes.
Okay.
He was top 3.
That's what I understood you to say. So after looking, and I took notes too, because I looked at, the amount of information that came from the comments too, was basically for Bill. I'm sure we probably would have had a lot more people standing out there wanting to speak in Bill's favor if we weren't on a coronavirus watch here.
Well, and I think, it's certainly fair to say. And I think, when somebody who's touched as many lives or been as big a part of the community personally, that is, going to be the personal and emotional tie that they have to this.
Right. Well
I don't
said.
think anybody from Pleasant Valley is here to attest to that school. I mean, so I think that's one of the things that happens when, and one of the difficulties when we name these schools and we name them after, our propensity to name them after someone rather than choose a name, because there are those emotional attachments. I'm sure that, if you were to talk to Dr. Grady and Mrs. Cordero about some of the other names of people that were brought forward, they all had very strong ties to the community, and there was a lot of emotion with that. So.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
So.
I still will go with Bill as my
Okay.
number 1.
Okay. And Linda, how are you
I just unmuted.
taking this all in?
Well, I honestly cannot say that I am opposed to naming the school after Bill Libin. I haven't known him as long as Vita or Ricky, but as most of you know, I have been affiliated with the Boys and Girls Club for quite some time. And of course, I know Bill pretty well, and I would agree. He has touched the community in a very, very positive way. I was very moved by the letter that his son wrote on his behalf.
It's
I
pretty
would
powerful. Yeah.
certainly be very honored if any one of my children were to write something like that on my behalf. So
Amen.
while, there's just the big part of me that wants to go with the historical part, I think somebody needs to make a motion and see what happens. And we'll kind of go from there.
And
Okay.
Dr. Grady, can I just ask a procedural question of you? Are you still there? Anyone? Bueller?
Yes, I am. Sorry,
There you
I'm here.
I didn't see your name. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
So when you guys did all this, brought these finalists around, was it similar? Was it kind of, it was a ranking thing and then just you were deleting and re-ranking, deleting, re-ranking, that kind of thing?
We were, and go ahead.
No, I'm curious because, with these kinds of things, I know 3 names is procedural, and I'm just wondering how tightly, we're having difficulty here. I'm wondering how tightly aligned or close the votes were for the top 3, or even like you said, the top 5, and then you eliminated a couple.
Yeah, the top 5 were really close. The top 5 were really close. We had 2 underneath these 3 that came in like 1 vote below. So, but if I could say, as a committee, when we couldn't meet face to face anymore, I think the part that we really didn't do as a committee, which I would have liked to have done more, is one of the questions I had is, are there any skeletons in the closet with any of these people? We put a name up on a wall, and we have to make sure as a committee we have done everything possible that we're okay with all of these names. And I will tell you, John, or Mr. Hollinshead, board president, that I don't know, Linda, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we spent as much energy on digging deep on our names of people that I would hope to have done should we have gone face to face. I hope
think
that makes sense.
You're absolutely right. And there wasn't the opportunity for the back and forth dialogue, for people to really express their rationale so that everyone could hear it and, respond.
Right.
Well, and the reason I asked it is because I feel like we're having that same experience right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having difficulty coming to consensus because we're hearing part of the story and feeling like we have to go forward procedurally, but not really feeling or sensing that we're convinced of the decision that we're making or what we're putting forward. So I'm wondering, there's no way around this shelter at home business as far as you guys having those discussions in a more formative, lengthy fashion. So, and I don't know when in the foreseeable future that would happen. I'm wondering, does the board feel compelled to make that decision this evening, given those constraints? How do you guys each feel, if you would?
Well, as we came together, I've never named a school before, so I wasn't sure of the procedure. So I'm trying to absorb and do the best I can with what we have. It says here that can we table something until our next meeting, or is that what you're asking, John?
Well, what I'm saying is that the next meeting might not be, we may be in the same, we may be in the same, the same position. And because there is a motion tied to this decision, and because some of the committee members, namely, that we have here, didn't feel like there was full vetting of all the finalist choices. And I feel similarly right now that we're having difficulty kind of really coming to consensus, that there might be a time when we can have this discussion in a manner that would help us reach consensus.
If I could just interject,
Sure.
I want to commend Dr. Grady and the committee for the work they did under some entirely unique circumstances. I don't see the circumstances changing at any point in time. I think the committee's done their job bringing forth recommendations. I think what it really is, what we're, tasked with is, knowing that we're not likely going to be able to convene any type of group in any other way than what they've done. There's going to be some shortcoming in what that interaction is. It's really just a matter of having the conversation here. And I think you said it a few minutes ago, John, if there is a motion to be made, let's make it and let the process as it's designed, see what the outcome is and then take that conversation from there.
Well, and for me, the reason I asked is because the process is usually we come to consensus, and I don't feel like that's going to be readily attained here. So, but if you want to, if somebody wants to move to bring one of the names forward, then we can wait for a second, or it'll be tabled. That nomination won't be moved forward, or what have you.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that of education select William Bill Livin as the name of the new school, number 21, as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Flores, seconded by Mr. Lara, that the new school be named Bill Livin, after Bill Livin, William Livin.
Probably easier to do a roll.
Yeah. So let's go roll. I think in the past we haven't, but today let's do a roll call for this.
Okay.
Mrs. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver,
Nay.
Mrs. Cordero,
No.
Mr. Hollingshead.
Nay.
Okay.
So motion does not pass.
I will move to name the new school Pleasant Valley Elementary at Enos Ranch.
And that's an amendment to the name Pleasant Valley then? Ricky, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
I don't know if anybody can hear me over this phone, but I don't feel that I'm ready to make this decision right now. I feel that I want to go and think it over a little bit and suggest some of the things that that we have talked about tonight, and I'd like to hold it off until our next meeting.
Duly noted, Mrs. Oliver. And Linda's moved. Ricky, were you going to say something?
No,
Not muting.
I'm not muted.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gotcha.
I was talking to the wife.
Oh, okay. Hi, Carrie. Yeah.
No, I just said.
All right. I'll second Linda. And so we'll do roll call on Pleasant Valley.
Kristen, you're on mute.
At Enos Ranch.
Mrs. Flores,
No.
Mr. Lara,
No.
Mrs. Oliver,
No.
Mrs. Cordero,
Yes.
Mr. Hollingshead.
No. Is there anyone who wishes to put forward Enos Ranch?
No.
Okay. So for lack of a majority or consensus with any of the three names, Dr. Grady,
Yes, are you,
this is uncharted territory.
we have a 4 and 5. I don't know where that goes. It wasn't submitted to the board. So we do have a 4 and 5 that were one vote short of making the top 3.
Well,
I think, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, I would,
Yeah, and mute myself. I would think at this point that we consider Mrs. Oliver's recommendation that we table the item. That
Right.
we- With
Yeah,
that,
for lack of-
and again, I go back to the point, it's going to be hard to bring anything, to convene any type of meeting beyond what's already been in place. But if there is direction from the board on other information that you would like in regard to the names that have been brought forward this evening, more information, we can bring that back. And again, I want to give full credit to the work that Dr. Grady did with the committee in very difficult circumstances and convening the way they did. And I know for a fact that she went back to that group many, many times and asked, what do you, let's think about this from another perspective. So if there's some direction feedback that the board would like to provide in terms of how we can bring information in a different manner to you, maybe ask those groups to create a formalized presentation, whatever's the board's pleasure that might make, provide some greater detail that would allow you to make a decision or the information that you need to make a decision.
And what I can't recall is if we're held to a top 3, Dr. Grady.
That's
how the policy reads.
What's in the AR is that the committee will bring 3 recommendations to the board and the board will select.
Right. And so, but what I'm saying is if we can't come to consensus on the 3 that are brought at this point, are we obliged to keep those same 3 and vote again?
I guess that's what I'm asking for direction from the board on. What
So
would you like to see to make the, to provide the additional information?
Branch one out.
Well, I think what Mrs. Oliver suggested is, she just wanted additional time to really digest everything and think about it. And I would suggest that, there are people watching or listening that, we may well get lobbied heavily in favor of one thing or another that I think we should stick with the 3 that we have and we'll just make it work one way or another at our next meeting.
Are you good with that, Mrs. Flores?
I'm good with that.
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Okay, so when we reconvene next, Mrs. Oliver, are you on?
I'm on, but I'm getting strange voices coming on.
I think you're probably getting a little bit of feedback.
Okay.
Are you okay? It was your suggestion that we ruminate over this for the next, when we next convene. Are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. So as if it pleases the board, we will do so. When we reconvene next, we'll revisit this. And if you find, Dr. Grady, that there's additional information, if you would bring it to us at that time in regard to the nominees as they're presented tonight, that may be beneficial to our decision-making if we haven't already done so.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you'd like a little more information on these top 3 to maybe clarify some of your decision-making? Is that what you'd like the committee to do?
You know what? This is Jody speaking. I don't have trouble with not having enough information. I just need time to think about the information I've been given before I make a decision. I don't want this to be a decision that is just made to get it done.
Right. I agree that the haste makes any decision making feel like it might not be the right one, or that you have confidence in it. So I think that's good logic, Mrs. Oliver. So we'll bring this back to the next meeting, and it is tabled for this evening.
Hey.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And we can move on to item, where'd you go, Ricky?
You ran away.
I saw you. Item 8, action item 8B, comprehensive safe school plans. Is Dr. Zimmerman on?
Yes, I'm on. Good evening, everybody. So I'm gonna try to do my presentation. I've been told by Brian Ricky how to share. So somehow my screen is not sharing. Well, let's see. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing?
If you're seeing Ricky, Laura, Luke, Ontiveros, Matt Beecher, Kristen,
No.
Corneo, Mark Muller.
Okay, that's not
then
working.
I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
Okay, so that's not working. So I had a bunch of Google slides that I was going to share with all of you, but as a distance learner right now, I'm also taking all of this in and trying to figure it out as well. I thought I had it, but so I'll go through the presentation, I guess, orally, and we'll talk about that. And I have two. Oh, wait, there.
You're up.
There it is.
Okay, I think that was Brian Ricky. He did something magical. So I just don't know how to click through the slides, but we'll make it work. So I guess he's doing it remotely for me, so that's awesome. So every year we do this. It's the comprehensive safe school plans that all of the schools do. It's reviewed in consultation with San Maria Police Department or the schools like Bonita and Arianes Junior High and Elementary. They're out in the county. They have the sheriff look over their plan, sign off on it. And it's always reviewed with school site council each year and agreed upon by them. And next slide. There we go. Talks about making the components of a safe school plan are, safe, respectful, and accepting, emotionally nurturing environment at the school sites, teaching students resiliency skills, and we'll talk about some of the things that we do in order to do that, and having a safe physical environment. And, I'm kind of the warm up for tonight. I'm the appetizer, if you call it. And I've got Jen Beard and Christina Stanford, who are going to be talking about some of the components of their plans. They're doing some really awesome stuff at their school sites. And, with things like Education 48 900K that's going to take place starting next year, which is going to eliminate suspensions, we talk about a lot of proactive things that we can do to keep a safe environment, build culture, address student needs quickly, and be proactive rather than reactive. So they're going to come in and they're going to talk about some of the awesome things that they're doing at their school sites after I kind of get through the nuts and bolts of the safe school plan components. All right, so just to review, we have the Healthy Kids Survey that we use data to measure, how our schools are looking every year, and kids in 5th and 7th grades take it. We have DARE to address to substance abuse, to address that in 6th grade. The outreach ORMS is a new term. It was the outreach consultants, but it's now outreach mentors. And they teach anti-bullying strategies through the Bully Proof Kit in elementary classrooms. And then the counselors and administrators at the junior high level use items as well. The junior high students get Project Alert, which is an anti-substance abuse curriculum. We have Too Good for Drugs district-wide, and right now we're piloting 2 other programs to look at next year to do something a little bit different. And right now that's Lion's Quest and Second Step that we're piloting for social emotional curriculum. So we all have Red Ribbon Week activities, and we have school staff are trained in child abuse reporting procedures. And we have Child Safe come in and do presentations for students in grades 1, 4, and 7. The good touch, bad touch, those kinds of things. We have 4 school resource officers that work with each one of the clusters, and that's been super helpful because they've been able to build back in the day, it was just everybody went to fight fires and just go to schools when there were issues. Now, since they're clusters, they get to watch these kids come up through the elementaries and they're at the junior high schools with them. And so they get to build relationships with them. And again, a lot of positive interactions prior to, hopefully not something bad happening being their only connection. We have extracurricular activities at school sites along with ACEs. And we have awards ceremonies to celebrate the good things that are going on. And we have character building programs. It's dependent on sites. We have Fighting Back. We have truancy mentors that help students work with families and students of students that kids that come to school with either they're coming tardy all the time or they're just having attendance issues and not having those good habits. They work very closely with the families and with the students to help build those skills. And we also contract with Family Service Agency to have outreach mentors to work on just basic character development, problem-solving skills with students. They're like a coach for helping kids navigate some of the ins and the outs of social emotional issues that they're having. And we have Healthy Start advocates through the family service agencies that help link families to basic needs, insurance. They get them to different resources in the community, like we have food banks available where they can get resources in the community. And again, outreach mentors we already talked about, truancy mentors we talked about, and some of the schools also have marriage and family therapists. Next year, we're looking at doing that at all the school sites. So students with the highest intensity level of emotional behaviors can be addressed with these folks. So, and to address the safe physical environment, we have monthly fire drills. We have lockdown drills. Every school has to do practice doing lockdowns with one time when it's just in class and then one time at a lunchtime or a passing period, so kids know what to do if there were to be a lockdown when it's not a structured setting. So they know what to do in that kind of situation. We have the other part is we did start the ALICE, the Run, Hide, Fight at all the junior highs this year. Tommy Kuntz was the first to take it on last year. We were rolling it out to all of the other ones, and then COVID hit. So we got about 75% done with the junior highs. And we were working with Arianis Elementary as well. They're going to be our guinea pig for the elementary sites. And things are going really well, but COVID hit, and we kind of put that on pause. But we are moving towards the Run, Hide, Fight model, and we've had a lot of positive feedback about it and a lot of good things. People have been asking for it, and it's getting there. Making sure visitors come on campus. We have very strict procedures for students, for parents, signing into the front office, getting their visitor's pass. We have attendance accounting daily, making sure that we not only do a parent square, but we make individual phone calls to every kid that's absent to make sure that they're safe and accounted for. Employee have ID badges that they need to use, and we always, the fences have been there forever, so that's continuing. And just more, to address and to, assess where we are with safety on our school campuses and what is the vibe out there from the kids in 5th and 7th grade, how they're feeling, is we take the California Healthy Kids Survey every year. And this year it was just between November 4th and November 22nd. We had 95% participation rate in 7th grade and 80% participation in 5th grade. Again, it's done yearly. And some of the highlights that we found, this is the data from this year, is 95% of 5th graders and 93% of 7th graders still connected to school. So they have a connection. They like their, prior to COVID hitting, our attendance, I think it started to drop off in December-ish. It started to fall. But usually we're the high 96, high 97%. Kids enjoy coming to school, and they have great teachers, and they have great administrators and great support staff that are there, and they feel connected to school. 96% of 5th graders and 89% of 7th graders feel like they have caring adults in schools. High expectations across the board. And then motivated to do academically. We had a little bit of drop in 7th grade, and it wasn't really expected, but there's a variation every year, because given every year we'll see little dips here and there. But overall, we have a lot of positive things that we're seeing from our school sites with the California Healthy Kids Survey results. So I'm going to turn it out now. We have Christina Stamford from Bonita, and we have Jim Beard from Arianas Junior High School. And I'm going to turn it over to Christina next. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the two stars of the show and let Christina talk about what she's doing out at Bonita, what their team is doing to help link kids with services to provide a positive school climate and culture.
Hi, everyone. Brian, will you go ahead and get my slideshow started? Thank you. While I'm waiting, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share what we're doing at Bonita.
And I'm sorry, I'm sure Brian Ricky's listening because he was queuing me through mine. Yeah, there we go. He's on cue for this one.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk to you about our coordination of services team at Bonita School. We also call this our COST team. Our COST meetings have replaced student study team meetings. Most of you probably know those as SST meetings. We have found our COST meetings to be far more efficient and effective than SST meetings for a few reasons. First, we can discuss up to 6 students within 1 hour. Second, since our COST meetings are only an hour, our whole team can be there. On a typical Tuesday when we meet, we typically have 10 service providers there. And it gives us a great opportunity to move through kids, like I said, in a really efficient way. When we were running SST meetings, we could typically meet on 3 students once a week because it takes 30 minutes per kid. And we didn't usually have the whole team there. So when a teacher would come to me and say, I have concerns, can you put this student on the student study team calendar? I wouldn't be able to schedule them for a few months. Now, though, I can get kids on the agenda within a couple weeks. So what is COST? COST is a multidisciplinary team of school staff and providers. On our team, we have our school psychologist and we have our resource teacher, our nurse, both of our outreach mentors, all 3 of our intervention teachers, and that includes our English language development teacher. Typically, both of the school administrators are at the meetings, and then we sometimes have our family advocate there. So you can see we have a lot of great minds working together to figure out how we can help our students. Each team member brings their area expertise to the table. They also have jobs as team members. A couple of examples, our school psychologist is our note taker. Our outreach mentor is our timekeeper. So that way we stay on track and we're focused. The team also collaborates on linking referred students to resources and interventions. This is the best part of COST. We're able to put our minds together, figure out exactly what the student needs, and then connect them with resources. Then we can develop an action plan to connect the student with these necessary resources. We also support students' academic success and healthy development. Since we have our nurse there when health issues come up on the student, it really helps to have our nurse there because then she can go ahead and write medical referrals and we can send that home so the parent can get help for their child. All right, if you could change the slide, that would be great. All right, so students that should be referred to COST. Our PLC, which is also known as professional learning communities, go hand in hand with COST. So typically we have our teachers meeting weekly. They're collaborating, looking at their data to see who are the lowest students in their class. Despite intense, strong tier 1 instruction, then for those students that are not meeting the standard, they're providing tier 2 instruction in smaller group setting. And if those students still are not meeting standards, we bring them up at COST. The next group of students that are referred to COST are our LTELs, which are long-term English language learners. So we really want to take a look at our students that are still receiving ones on the LPAC or the TEL, despite being enrolled in US schools for more than 4 years. We also bring up students with reading concerns. Right now, our 2 intervention teachers, we have 2 English language arts intervention teachers, Denise Berry and Mark Tacey. They're currently running a pull-out intervention program throughout the day. When they pull students out, it's only for about 30 minutes. They're able to see about 15% of students per grade level. Both Denise and Mark have made tremendous growth due to their program. We also bring students that need extra support with behavior. Across our school, we encourage teachers to use 4 positives to every 1 negative when they're dealing with kids. We also make sure that every teacher has classroom discipline policies and some sort of, positive behavior interventions that they're implementing. However, when we have students that are still not being successful, those are students we want to refer to cost. All right, go ahead and change the slide. Here's the referral process for our team. The first thing, we're going to discuss CFA results at grade level PLC meetings. So the CFA, that stands for Common Formative Assessments. So basically, teachers are looking at the standards that they should be teaching. They're across the grade level, they're administering the same assessments. And then those students that are not doing well on those assessments, they're tracking them. They're listing the lowest 10 to 15% of students. So that way the whole grade level has a really good handle on which students are not being successful. At grade level, they're doing what they can to meet the needs. They're setting up skills groups to give the kids extra support. Despite these interventions, the kids that are brought to cost are those kids that still are not being successful at interventions at the grade level. So the way teachers refer students, they just send me an email and let me know that they'd like to refer a student to cost. Then I send them the paperwork. When we have kids that are referred for behavioral concerns, I always ask them, are you implementing 4 positives to 1 negative? What is your classroom discipline policy? We go through it together. We see what can be changed. They're sharing concerns with me. I'm checking base with the students that have behavior issues. If we're still not seeing progress on behavior, we bring that student to cost. So that way we're bringing in the specialist to figure out what we can do to help that student. All right, next slide. And can you click, so here's what our intervention data log looks like. Sorry about this. You know what, I don't want to take your time. Let's go ahead and just go on to the next one. But on the intervention data log, it looks similar to what a student study team form. I'm going to see if I can approve. Well, I'm going to see if I can share this with you. Okay, will you see if it works now, Brian? So this is what our intervention data log looks like. And you can see we've got the students' information at the top. And then as you scroll down, you can see that each member of the team uses a different color so we know who's contributing. We always want to make sure we know what current programs the student's involved in. Then right off the bat, we're talking about medical concerns because that's our most important thing. We want to make sure our students are healthy. We're also looking at limiting factors. If the student has an attendance issue, if they've moved around to different schools, we want to make sure we're looking at those issues and doing what we can to support the family. Then as you scroll down, the teacher highlights the academic concerns. Then we write down all of the data, the LPAC, the TEL, the CASP, unassisted writing prompts, we have guided reading groups across all grade levels at our school site. And then go ahead and keep scrolling down, please. So you can see lots and lots of data. At the next one, we've got the intervention name. So we expect teachers to make sure they're implementing an intervention. They're talking about the frequency, so how many numbers of days per week and the duration. Then below that, you can keep scrolling down. We have our behavioral concerns, any speech concerns that the teacher might have, and other supports that the student has. Then if you scroll down a little bit more, we have a really in-depth tracker of what they're doing at the various tiers to meet the needs of the student. So this allows us to really hone in on exactly what the student needs. And if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see that there's tier 1, tier 2, and then tier 3. So that's the form that the teachers complete. We call it the intervention data log. The teachers complete that and then they give it back to me. Okay, and then, all right, can we go on to the next one? So what happens next? So we go ahead, we meet, then we write an action plan for the student. And the action plan is actually really simple, but it's got a lot of meat to it. Will you click on the link for the action plan? Oh, it's another one. Okay, well then I'm not gonna go. I don't wanna waste your time. Can you go back to the slideshow? So basically the action plan, it's just what everybody has suggested, what we can do for that student. Then I email it to the teacher implements it. From there, once they've implemented the plan, we give them 6 weeks to monitor the student's progress. And then we revisit the student. In 6 weeks, the teacher has provided us information on that intervention data log that I just shared with you. All right, will you go ahead and click on the next one? Here's my last one. Thank you so much for your patience. These are the approximate outcomes from cost. I haven't been able to go back to our school in a couple weeks. So just from looking at emails and my forms that I have on my account, this is what I found. We've had 70 students this year referred to our outreach mentors. We have 2 site outreach mentors. We've had 12 students so far that have been referred for full psychoeducational assessments. 30 students have been referred to our family advocate. From there, 15 students have been referred to outside counseling. 50 students have been referred to Bonita's Winter Academy. We've had 10 medical referrals, which included ADD screenings. And down at the bottom, this early intervention is the key to success. So just real quick, I want to go over our California dashboard and just share with you how being proactive has really made progress at our school. So if you look at our chronic absenteeism, we're in the green. So that means less than 5% of our students have chronic absenteeism.
Nice.
Our suspension rate, we actually dropped by a whole percent. So 0.8% of our students have been suspended once. So last year we ended up suspending 4 kids. This year we only suspended 1 student. We really focus, like Brian was saying, on being proactive rather than reactive. When we saw students having problems, we immediately addressed those concerns so we could remedy the situation. On English language arts, so we improved by 19.4%. And I credit our intervention program. You know, we intervened early, we provided students with support, they made progress, and it was reflected on our CASP results. We still have a long way to go, there's no question about that, but we made a lot of progress. Then in math, we improved by 10.4 points, I think it was. So again, we still have a long ways to go, but we're making steady progress. And I feel that cost is a great way for us to support those students that are struggling. We can meet their needs, and then we have positive results. That's all I have. Do you have any questions for me? All right, everybody, thank you so much.
Very informative.
This is John Hollinsett. When I was at Taylor a few weeks ago, I looked at something similar with their cost setup. One of the things they were talking about was having MFTs in the coming year and how that might make things look a little different. How I'm not quite fully remembering that. Is there something about this that would change with having MFTs?
I think they would be part of our team, definitely. Okay. So those students that are getting outside counseling services, I believe they'd be able to receive counseling or therapy on site. I believe we'll have one part-time for next year, which will make a huge difference because with a lot of our families, it's difficult for the parents to drive the student to counseling, to see the therapist. So having an on-site therapist is really going to be a great asset to our school.
And yes, that is on the LCAP plan for every school. And I think we took it from splitting one between Arianas and Bonita and actually having one full-time person at every site. So this would be someone for the most intensive needs, social emotional needs. So every school site will have one that's written into the LCAP.
And that's an additional rather than like replacing or something.
Well, that's right now school sites are paying for their own, so it'd be a district paid.
I see.
So because some schools do have them and
Right.
some do not. So if they don't have them, we're making sure everyone's going to be equitable next year. So we're providing one for every school site.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Christina. That was awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
so
you,
much for your
Christina.
time. I hope everybody stays safe and healthy.
You too.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Next we have Jen Beard. She's going to talk. I told her she's going to use her quick, her speed voice. She's going to talk about some awesome things. They're doing an advisory period. So they're building school culture out at Arianas Junior High School, something new that they started this year, something super awesome. So I'm going to turn it over to her and she's going to explain to you something great that's happening with the Hawks.
Hello, good evening, and thank you for having me here. Brian Ricci, if you could bring up my slides for advisory. And so really just kind of a review. I know we briefly talked about what advisory is before we had started. It was part of our MOU, but advisory is not just a non-graded class period that happens on most Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. It really is a time for us to focus on the needs of the whole student in the junior high setting. So lessons this year have included community building, establishing relationships, goal setting, Y-Tri, which is our social emotional learning curriculum, celebrations, and organizational skills. And so this advisory time, every teacher is involved in advisory. So it's typically the teacher's first period. If a teacher does not have a first period, then they were co-teaching their advisory with another teacher as well. So it also brings in a lot of collaborative skills. Brian, if you can move to the next slide. And so really we started with a vision, and our vision for advisory was for it to be a safe place on campus for students and teachers to build relationships and to grow. We created an advisory committee to plan, write, and communicate these advisory lessons, and feedback loops were built in. The advisory committee presented the lesson plans and upcoming lessons to teachers for approval. And in that picture is actually one of our January 13th professional development days, in which we're presenting the lessons and we're all working together to come to a consensus on it. Students and teachers completed surveys in fall and winter, and we use those surveys to in our committees to plan. And we can truly say that our advisory program is a collaborative process. If we were in the board meeting right now, I wouldn't be doing this presentation alone. And actually, I'm not doing it alone. My cat has just decided to walk in the room, excuse me. But I would have a group of teachers who would be following me as well and standing behind me to be able to help explain what it is and how this has really made an impact. So a few of the highlights of our lessons and our work with students, there's a check-in. So how are you feeling today? Really talking student to teacher and peer to peer. Also Hawk Squawk, which is circle time in which students and teachers are coming up with questions and being able to share how they feel and checking in. We've had community building through lessons and events. We created every class, an advisory class, created a crest. You can see a few of those there in the slides. And we also, our last day before winter break, had the Winter Advisory Cup and Tournament of Houses with different games. And so really highlighting some of the work that we've done. This was from our fall Tournament of Houses. So a few different activities. Thank you, Brian. And if you can click to the next slide. And so advisory really has become a part of what we do and who we are. So although our advisory committee created the lessons, advisory classes also have brought in other things to do to celebrate. Like Mrs. Hawkins' class, they've decided that they want to celebrate all of the major holidays in some ways, and also student birthdays and advisories. When we attended the whole school field trip to Allen Hancock for their college and career readiness, we went over within our advisory classes. And one other aspect is really helping students to calculate their GPA and realize whether or not they were on track with graduation. We definitely showed students how to navigate in areas and not only look for an orange cell within their assignment, but also what was in that assignment that needed to be worked on. And so working with students, teachers really owning their advisory and feeling that that is the place in which they can make an impact in working with students. Thank you, Brian. If you want to move to the next slide. And so these are some of our results. So these are from our advisory teacher survey. You can see the fall is on the top and winter is on the bottom. So the question, one of the questions was, the advisory program gives students the opportunity to form a positive relationship. And this, at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of "I'm not sure yet, it's too early to tell." At the bottom, you can see from the teachers that they really believe the advisory program gives students the opportunity to form that positive relationship. And if you can move to the next slide. This again is from the advisory teacher survey. At the top, helps students to monitor their academic progress. And you can see most definitely in the winter that that was something that we felt very strongly that we had worked on and were accomplishing as a teaching staff. And now results from our student survey. So wanting to have that safe place and for students to really connect and bond with their advisors. So at the beginning, you can see in the fall, the answer to the question, "I know my advisor knows me well." A lot of students weren't sure yet. They didn't know, it was too early to tell. But in the winter, that they definitely, many more of them felt that their advisor knows me well. What I didn't include with this is we also asked students, if you strongly disagreed or you disagreed, why? And they, one of the interesting responses from a few of the students who said that they disagreed is, "My advisor doesn't know me well because I don't talk a lot in class or I don't share a lot." So there were a lot of really great information that came forward as well. And the last result that I'm sharing with you, the advisory program helps me to feel like I belong here. And that was one of our goals. And you can see that in the winter, so this was right when we had come back, a couple weeks after we had come back from break, that the advisory program makes me feel like I belong here, and more students at the end were feeling that they agreed and strongly agreed that they felt like they belonged, that it would help. We were excited to see what our results would have been in the spring. We had intended to have a survey at the end of the year, but unfortunately, we were cut just a little short from that. So what are we doing right now? Well, really focusing on with our teachers to be able to connect with their students through advisory. So advisory classes are meeting together with Zoom or Google Classroom Chat on last Thursday, and we'll continue next Thursday. And we'll continue to meet throughout our school closure and start planning for next year as well. So a few of the thoughts from teachers, one of them, some positives would be that my advisory student, I have my advisory students every day, and I'm able to have one-on-one conversations with them on a regular basis if needed, usually after class. We became very comfortable and open with each other. It was not effective all of the time, but it was effective a lot of the time. And then one last slide, a few thoughts from our students. They strongly agree my advisory offers me help because my advisory teacher took me out of class to talk to me about my grades and if I have any problems. They like advisory. It's fun, helps some of us talk more to each other. And I promise you that comment down in the right-hand corner, I didn't pay the student to write that, but I could not have written it better myself. It can teach shy people to socialize with other people that they are comfortable with. It can also boost up some of their potential confidence to make some more friends in advisory and outside of class. So thank you. That's the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions.
No, thank you.
Oh, very, very informative. Thank
Genevieve.
you.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pat. Lots of information. Thank you.
And Mr. Ontiveros, is that the only campus that is of class or being practiced then? Did I miss that before? Is that the only campus that this advisory class is being done in that form?
I think Genevieve's online. I do believe she's had conversations with some of the other junior high principals on set.
Okay.
Again, this would normally be the time of year that we'd be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, currently we're the only junior high for sure, but and only school who has the advisory format.
It's
Well, I
nice
know
to
we
see
went up with
the data.
Absolutely. And we're finding too that, so many more teachers feel that this really is a way that they're able to focus on and connect with a group of students. And it really, truly is a collaborative effort. We have a committee that is made up of at least one person from each department. And so it's not just a committee of 9, but it's also a committee that works with being able to gather ideas and sounding boards and feedback and really looking at the direction in which we're moving and being able to work with students and being able to connect and build those relationships.
Well, thank goodness at this point for technology.
Absolutely. And being able to see their faces when they will show them to us in advisory.
Right.
So it's been a great thing.
Well, yeah, that one, in light of the visits that some of us made out to that campus a few years ago and discussions about the progression from what was happening then and to now, this is what you would hope for. And I think really probably it's a really great example of communication being that real, and trust being that thing that sustains and builds the whole positive behavioral stuff. And it's really great stuff.
Absolutely. And it really is, it's the staff and the faculty, it's the teachers that are bringing this and driving it forward. I just get to be the leader guiding it.
Yeah, well, great job, leader.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say thank you to Jen and Christina. Every year we find one elementary and one junior high to present what they're doing, some of the great things that are happening at their school sites. And this year we looked at Bonita and Arianas, and they're doing some outstanding things. And next year we'll bring another elementary and junior high forward, and they can highlight some of the great things that are happening. But we have a lot of great administrators, great teachers doing great work in their classrooms and helping out our kids quite a bit.
Any more discussion, board?
So are you ready for a motion?
Yep.
Well, I'll move that the Board of Education approve the comprehensive safe school plans as presented on April 8th, 2020, item 8B.
I second.
Linda moved and Ms. Flores seconded that the board approve the comprehensive safe school plans as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Move on to item 8C, public hearing regarding intent to adjust school facilities fees for inflation, level 1. Open the meeting, the hearing. Closing the hearing. We'll move on to item 8D, resolution number 1918, adoption of school facilities fees as authorized by Education Code section 17620 and Government Code section 65995. Mr. Beecher?
Thank you very much. I'm going to see if I can successfully share my screen. Hello. Oh, wait.
There you go.
There you go.
I'm almost there.
You're on.
There you are.
I don't really even know what that means.
Well, you're under security alert. Watch out.
Man. Well, these are, this is a presentation about developer fees. You never know where it could lead. So the developer fee justification study is required to be presented to the board after a public hearing every 2 years. We are very familiar as a school board, you are as a school board, with how this works. New housing generally generates the opportunity to bring more families and more students. Education Code 17620 provides us with the ability to assess fees. Government Code 65995 also provides additional guidance on how to make that work, and allows us to increase those fees every 2 years based on the Class B Construction Cost Index. And we hire Schoolworks Incorporated. Ken Reynolds is the lead consultant for us to prepare the justification study itself. And the ending result is that we can charge $2.82 for residential construction and 46 cents after this inflationary increase. We do have to go through a few steps in order to qualify, to document and demonstrate that there's a reasonable relationship between the need for school facilities and construction. You can see the burden nexus and the cost nexus, and the benefit nexus defined there for you. Ken's work actually gets pretty detailed. He gets a data download from the city planning department, and actually by address sees all the permits that have been issued in the last 5 years and connects those directly to our student information system by address. And so instead of just taking a sample, it's actually a 100% connection between where our students are living and the permits that have been issued. So his ability to create that nexus is pretty significant. So the way the code works is with the board's support and approval of this resolution, we can increase our fees, and that increase will be effective 60 days post-board approval.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, sir.
When they're assessing their fees, that's for the square footage, whether it be a commercial or residential, right?
Yes.
Is it after the house is
Commercial,
completed
industrial, it's
that they
different.
reassess it, or is it before anything's put in and it's just the bare walls and sheetrock?
That's a good question. I've recently, in the last couple months, had a developer asking me similar questions. The way the code is written, it talks about an assessment against the square footage within the perimeter of the residential construction.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about the perimeter of the residential construction, I'm thinking it's the outside of the building all the way in.
Okay.
It excludes outbuildings and sheds. It excludes overhangs and carports.
Yeah, I get that. I was just thinking afterwards, they say, no, I want to reassess this because we got the baseboard in and now we're cutting some inches.
Excellent. Yeah, no, so the way it works, we have a excellent working relationship with the city of Santa Maria as far as it comes to how we assess our fees. They actually, in the planning department, connect the square footage from the permit, which is based on the plans.
Okay.
They send that to us with the square footage information. We assess the fee. We put a seal on it, an embossed seal, and sign it and send it back to them. And that all happens as having been paid. And that all happens before they get their permit to start construction.
To start construction. So, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or discussion?
And I hope you all recognize this picture of the Measure T school and the helicopter lowering the HVAC units onto the.
Was that the other day they were doing that?
It was like a year ago.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. It was like
No,
just
this is
before the
recent.
end of February or
Yeah, this
right
is
in
Yeah.
March. It just seems like it was a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did, I think all of the units in about 90 minutes. It was pretty amazing.
As long as there's no wind. Santa Maria has no wind.
Right?
Mm,
It's hanging straight down below the helicopter.
yeah, no.
Okay. Well,
Move on
I'll
to
make the recommendation that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 19-18, adoption of school facility fees as authorized by Education Code section 17620 and Government Code 65995 as presented on April 8th, 2020.
I
I'll
second.
second that.
Been moved by Ricky and seconded by Vita that the board adopt resolution 1918, adoption of school facilities fees as authorized by Education Code section 17620 and Government Code 659995. Oops, sorry, 65995 as presented. Roll call.
Flores,
I can't hear her. Did she call my name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mrs. Flores,
Yeah, yes, I.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Oliver,
Did we lose Jody?
Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Hollinshead.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 8E, another public hearing. Fees of development projects pursuant to Government Code Section 65995, Level 2. Nobody's here. We'll close that public hearing. Move on to item 8F, Resolution 1919, fees on development project pursuant to Government Code Section 65995 regarding Level 2.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hollinshead. Before we leave this slide, I do want to say the school naming question was asked earliest, I think, by our architects while we were still planning the facility before anything had been drawn at all, because they wanted to put that on the plans themselves when they submitted them to DSA. And they continue to follow up with me, and I continue to give them updates. And really at this point, what matters is they're waiting to get that information to put it right. If you can see my cursor right there.
Oh, yeah.
Where the board's supposed to go?
That's where the marquee's gonna go. And they're very excited because the length of the name contributes to the weight of the sign. And DSA is gonna be really interested in how heavy the sign is. So they keep asking me where we are, and I just keep providing them feedback, and great discussion tonight, and they will just get that as an update.
I was wondering because driving by, it looks like it might be one of the lit notification boards.
So I think that little square is the marquee, and I think the other places they're wanting to put the name up over here on the admin building. In the block lettering. I think that's the plan that I've seen in the schematic right now. It just says Santa Maria Bonita. So that's their interest, and they're anxious for that process. So moving on to the next section, there is an alternative fee that is available to school districts when assessing mitigation fees against new construction. It's known as the level 2 fee, and as long as districts qualify and they meet the requirements, they can assess that fee. You have to make a timely application to the state for new construction eligibility and be eligible. You have to meet 2 of the 4 following characteristics, and in these characteristics, we do meet the issued debt and incurred obligations equal to 15% of the district's bonding capacity. And we also use relocatable classrooms for at least 20% of the district's classrooms. Currently, it's at 21.34%. When the Measure T school gets online, then that percentage may drop, and we'll have to look and see right away whether or not we still qualify under that characteristic to continue to be able to charge this fee again next year. And then we prepare the school facility needs analysis. I provided you with that report and follow the procedures identified in the law. So just really quickly, some of the data that was in your report. They talk about the students generated per household. That's that nexus between development and new students. Our rate now is about 0.3738 students per new door brought into the district. Development continues to slow. New housing is projected at a rate of 610 homes over the next 5 years. And with that yield rate, that'll produce another 199 students.
Well, that's a big drop.
Yeah, I have a little information for you a little bit later on that kind of shows the trend over the last 10 years. So you can see the Measure T school here, and this is the apartments going right across the street, the 318 apartments. So obviously that will generate students. The cost tables that are in your report are summarized here. In order to house those 199 students, the total cost would be estimated at $3.8 million, with the base need being calculated based on OPSC's reimbursement rates at $2.6 million, the land acquisition cost at about $539,000, and then site development at about $1.9 million. So you use that information as the estimated cost, and you divide that over the total number of square feet that would be generated by the homes being built in that year, 128 or whatever the number was, and the total square footage estimated for each of those units. And it comes out to an alternative fee of $568, $5.68 per square foot. So with the board's support, we would be able to assess that $5.68 fee starting tomorrow. So the board item we just talked about was the level 1 fee. You actually have to wait 60 days post board approval to assess it. So what you see is here's where we are now, charging $5.55. With the board's approval tonight, that fee total goes up to $5.68. Now, because the level 1 fee can't increase for 60 days, it's the level 2 fee that gets adjusted to push up to the $5.68. In 60 days, when the level 1 fee goes up to $2.82, then the level 2 fee has to drop because the alternate fee total is $5.68.
Oh, I see.
So the 60-day period that it's at 306.
Visual aids are great.
Yeah. In level 2, it'll be 306, and then it'll be 286 60 days out.
Yeah.
And we're just in this strange window in time between when those 2 fees get approved, become effective post board approval. So I mentioned I would share some information with you about student generation rates. It was solid about 15 years ago. The rates were pretty high. All of our rates led to a combined rate of above 0.5 students per door, 0.6 students per door, and it's been tapering slowly down. But you can see a dramatic drop between 2019 and 20 and this 2020-21 study. Now the axis on your left here is the elementary yield, and the axis on the right here is the junior high yield. And I did that just so that you could see all of the lines with more definition. But you can see they track together, with junior high being a little bit insulated in this time frame, but coming right back.
Is that based on birth rate or?
I would say, Linda, that a piece of it is related to the birth rate that we've been talking about for a number of years now. I think another component of it is that homes continue to increase in cost and may not be affordable for young families. And I think that was one of the things we thought about this stretch in time, where maybe a young family with younger children might not find the homes affordable. But as you know, as a family, as they're getting older children, maybe that by that time they find their way into a newer home. But a lot of this is connected. It's directly connected to permits issued in that year. So these are all new homes. It's all connected to new homes, not homes in some of our older neighborhoods. So.
Okay, and do we have any data that shows if retirees are moving into the area, or are they?
Yeah, we don't collect. Yeah, we don't collect that information at the district. That's more, I think, what would come out of the census, or
right,
a broader data collection than we do for this study.
It would be interesting to know.
For sure.
You do that at the meeting with the city whenever that comes back to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Matt.
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Matt, towards the beginning when you said we'd have to reassess and the fees would change, when will that be done? Next year?
So the level 2 fee can be adjusted every year, must be adjusted every year. At the end of 12 months, the level 2 fee study essentially expires, and you have to create a new one and then institute a new fee. The level 1 fee, the way that works is once you've established it, you only have to do a new study if you want to take advantage of the increase coming out of the construction cost index.
Okay.
So we'll have to do the level 2 portion of this discussion tonight again a year from now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
other questions?
I'll move that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 19-19, fees on development projects pursuant to Government Code Section 65995-Level 2, as presented above, dated April 8th, 2020.
I second.
Been moved by Mrs. Cordero, seconded by Mrs. Flores, that the board adopt resolution 1919, fees on development projects pursuant to Government Code Section 65995. Level 2 is presented above on 4/8/2020. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Mrs. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Hollington.
Aye. Motion passes. Move on to item 8G, resolution 1920, committing to special reserve funds in support of the 2021 E-rate application. Mr. Beecher.
This is another piece of annual housekeeping. As long as we're participating in the E-rate program through the School and Libraries Division, they require that we set aside reserve funds for our share of the project costs, because they don't want to commit the reimbursement out of their funds until we've done our commitment. So at this time, I'm trying to flip to the item to read the dollar amount. $285,000, $285,372 to support our E-rate program. We we've brought a lot of those contracts through the district already, through the board meetings to keep you in the loop for our network projects and technology, and the reimbursement percentages have been going down. And I have an email that actually talks about the amounts, but I've done like 17 different things since I had it up. So I can give you the details behind it.
Well, it's something we have to have.
We do have to have it. So we have we have our cell phone projects, we have some landlines, our VoIP project, a wide area network of about $375,000, and then internet service through Comcast. So that's to set aside 85% would be the reimbursement component, 15% is the set aside, and then we build in a 10% cushion. And that's how we came up with the $285,000 to set aside.
Makes sense.
There's no further discussion. Does anyone have a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 19-20 to designate special reserve funds in support of the 2020-21 E-rate application in the amount of $285,372 as presented April 8th, 2020.
I second.
Been moved by Mrs. Cordero, seconded by Mrs. Flores, that the board adopt resolution 1920 to designate special reserve funds in support of the 2021 E-rate application in the amount of $285,372 as presented. Roll call.
Mrs. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Hollingshead.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item 8H, resolution number 1921, resolution of the Board of Education of the Santa Maria Bonita School District authorizing the sale and issuance of not to exceed $18 million aggregate principal amount of general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series, approving the forms of the authorizing and execution and delivery of one or more escrow accounts, bond purchases agreements, and continuing disclosure certificates, approving the form and authorizing a method for review and approval by members of said board, one or more official statements, and authorizing the execution of necessary documents and certificates and related actions in connection therewith.
Gonna give you oxygen.
I ran out of breath. Thank you, John.
Oh,
I mean, that resolution header is a board item in and of itself.
I guess it says it all.
I think we're almost ready for a motion after all that.
I second that one.
But very patiently, the financing team supporting the district in this effort has been waiting in the wings. We have Adam Bauer from Feldman Roll-Up along with Jason Chung. We also have John Barrissey from Raymond James. And Don Field is logged on, but I don't see his video at this point. But this is the team that has been a part of the district's financing and refinancing efforts for more than a decade. And I've always appreciated their advice. I've found it to be trustworthy. And I mean, we're working together in a remote environment in the middle of a pandemic, still trying to make sure that we make wise choices for the district and its future. So I thank you guys for your patience again to wait for us to get to this point. And then I want to just hand it over to the team to carry this item and share with the board.
Okay, great. Good evening. This is John Barrissey speaking first. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our document for this evening, a brief presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to Adam Bauer, who's going to go through the first portion, and we will go from there. So is it up on everyone's screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Adam, I'll turn it over to you here on page 2.
Good evening. Thank you, John. On page 2, what we've detailed there is the general obligation bonds outstanding under the 2014 election. And you can see on the top there, there's 2 series that are listed. And then to the middle of the page, we show the principal and interest payments for each one of those. So you see the year on the left, the 2014 series 15 series, and then the 19, and then the aggregate there to the far right. The item that we're looking at discussing with you this evening and set for consideration is the refinancing of one of these series of bonds. And I'll show you the details on that in a moment when we turn to page 3. Oh, John's already there. Thank you, John. So on the next page, before the pandemic, and I wouldn't say before, but as it was developing and the markets had not quite reacted yet, this was our savings threshold. Since then, the market has gone in a bit of disarray, and John is going to explain what's happened or how it happened to date. And we are seeing a trend back to where we were, but we're not there yet. So when we worked with Mr. Beecher to prepare these initial items for you, this the series 2015 was refinanceable. And to the far top left there, you see a gross savings amount. So that's the dollar amount that the taxpayers would save if we would have priced on that day. And what does that mean annually? About $35,000. It's not a huge amount, but it's also not a huge amount of par, and it's spread across a lot of different homeowners. And then what we've always talked to you about is doing a present value. So bringing the gross savings to a current dollar equivalent. And that's what we're showing you as a 543,000. Then that savings number, we want to try to hit certain thresholds when comparing different size transactions to other transactions. And that's what we're doing here, is that 4.06 threshold. And then I think another important column to see is when this, before the market disruption took place, there was a savings of each year, and you can see it detailed there on the far right. Then on the next page, the one we had just looked at, these are your taxpayers repaying that debt. This money gets repaid based on property tax payments. Something much different than that is a district has some general fund debt. Now there's other sources that can be used to pay for it, but also it's always secured by your general fund. And so in this scenario, what we did here, once again, you have 2 series outstanding. We refinanced one of them just last year, and the one that can be refinanced today, or without the market disruption, is a 2013 COP. So it begins in 2020 and goes to 2033, and we're about to get to a slide that shows some of those refunding results. Once again, that top left table shows you the refunding savings that can be achieved. And this was a gross savings of 417, annual savings 32, and then that present value savings, because it's a little bit shorter, is very close to the gross savings. The savings percentage threshold was pretty low on this one, but when evaluating it and looking at some of the historic lows we're in, I think the team felt it was beneficial to consider, knowing that it was a very unlikely chance that we'd be able to achieve such low rates again. And so then to the far right there, these would be either general fund or district fund savings by being able to refinance this. And just like the general obligation bond, we do need the market to continue to correct. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Barrissey to talk a bit about what we've seen and where we may be headed.
Okay, thanks, Adam. And starting here on page 6, we'll talk a little bit about tax exempt and taxable rates. So tax exempt has the most visual, I guess, explainable, spike in rates, and we'll talk about why that is and why it differs from taxable bonds. But you can see here on this slide, going back to the beginning of January of 19 to now, we've just seen really a nice downward trend in interest rates, which is great for borrowing. Then when we hit our, spot in, mid-March when the pandemic really hit, we just saw, an explosion in interest rates virtually overnight. So you can see that massive increase. And then literally 5 to 6 days later, we saw almost as massive of a decline once the CARES Act was signed. And then, it's been very, very volatile, where we saw another huge increase last week. And then the past 4 or 5 days, we've had real nice lowering of rates, hopefully getting back as low as we can for borrowers to take advantage of it. But so this is tax exempt rates. And this, is just interesting to show you, because it's a very easy description understanding how, these various events over the past 30 days have played out in this marketplace. The bonds you will be issuing are different. They are called what we call taxable bonds. They're federally taxable, state tax exempt. So they have one less tax exemption than the previous bonds that you've issued to date. And the reason they have to be taxable is that there was the 2017 Jobs and Tax Cut and Jobs Act eliminated the ability to do what we call an advance refunding on a tax exempt basis. So if you want to do a refinancing in advance of the call date, the taxable bond way is the way to go. So taking a look at this, this goes through the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year Treasury, same time frame as the previous chart, and we've seen a similar relationship. And you can see here down towards current, we don't have that massive spike that you saw on the previous slide. So as Adam was going through the savings, you may ask, well, why is that the case? And it looks like we're pretty low, and why are our savings not where we would like them to be, or what's going on in the market? And the answer to that is that there's been a lot of corporate debt that's being issued, and corporate debt is taxable. And we're seeing billions and billions of supply has come to market since this stock market crash had originally occurred, which in tune is impacting municipal agencies such as yourself that had a lot of these transactions teed up and ready to go. The good news is that the corporate debt finance market is slowing significantly, which means that we've seen a nice downturn in the tax exempt rates, in the variable rate day-to-day rates, and we expect that the taxable rates will also be the next ones to kind of come down pretty significantly, over some time frame. And when we take a look again at the next slide here, this gives you another example. Taking a look at, you can see at that chart up on the top here, this U.S. municipal long-term issuance trends, January and February 2020, that bluish bar. You can see that March obviously was hit almost at half just due to this crisis. Then down below, the red lines are when investors pull money out of municipal bond markets. You see this red, and conversely with that, you see the interest rate shoot way up. So that gives you a sense on when investors are pulling money out in the red, you see high interest rates, and when it's green, you see low interest rates, whether it's tax exempt or taxable bond. So just kind of an interesting correlation there. But that really ends my discussion on the market. Maybe it's time for a pause to just address any questions you had on what Adam talked about with respect to the savings, and then I can address questions on the market, and then we just have a brief timeline to end with here on the next page.
So if I'm getting this right, we're going for a lower interest rate on these bonds?
Yes, that's correct. You'll be replacing the higher interest rate bonds with the lower interest rate bonds. And the two resolutions that you have in front of you this evening authorize district staff to move forward with it once the thresholds are met.
Yeah.
And like we said, right at this point, interest rates are just higher than we'd like them to be, and
Yeah.
we're just going to hang tight until the opposition or to the opportunity presents itself.
And when it does present itself, what is the turnaround time to do all the necessary whatever needs to be done to get those rates?
With your board approval, we would need, if the market started moving and continued to move in the direction that we're hoping that it does, is we would complete what Don Field and his team are preparing as a preliminary official statement, and then probably have what we call due diligence call with the district staff just before pricing the bonds or printing the POS. That could be as quick as 2 or 3 days, depending on how close and how accurate that POS is kept up to date as we're monitoring these things. And then within a few days to a week, we can be in the market pricing the bonds. So now that's a total of about 10 days. And then we could close. We generally are liking about 3 weeks right now because it's so difficult to connect with everyone remotely. You need signatures.
Yeah.
And so I think really to answer your question in the shortest fashion is to pounce on a market movement. We could do that within 10 days should we have the authorization of the board to move forward.
Oh, nice. Okay. You answered my question. Thank you. That's okay.
And Adam, do you have a threshold at which you're looking at making that decision as far as when there's a trend and then when you start to want to make that notification to us or move forward on your own, I mean?
Yes, we have identified thresholds, and Don Field, my computer is frozen up, or John, do you have those in front of you?
Yeah, the thresholds, I mean, generally speaking, I don't believe that the actual, we have a certain percentage savings in the document. Don may be able to comment on the GO bonds, but I know the COPs do not. But basically the numbers that you've seen here in this package were the thresholds that we were operating under, the 4% net present value for the GO bonds and 2.5 minimum or so of the net present value for the COPs.
Okay.
And this is Don Field. Sorry, I haven't got my video, but can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So the way we set the documents up is that that the transactions would go forward if there's savings. We didn't put a specific threshold. I think Adam was mentioning that, with the COP, the maturity is, I think it's just about over a 10-year period. And so when there's less maturity to go out and refund, the savings threshold may be lower because you may not have the opportunity to refinance it in the future for as low as it is now. So, and Adam could probably touch on this, that sort of the standard threshold for municipalities to look to refinance or look to see if it's worth refinancing is 3%. But there's other things to look at, including, like Adam was mentioning earlier, the historic lows we're at and whether there could be an opportunity in the future to get to that 3%. And it sounded like Adam was thinking that a lower threshold for the COPs might be more appropriate. So the way the approving documents are set up is that there's not a specific threshold, but so we are hoping that you would give Matt Beecher direction as to what the board's desire is and him executing on the transactions.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question or discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Don. Don, we know what you look like.
question. I'll make the recommendation that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 19-21, a resolution of Board of Education of the Santa Maria Bonita School District authorizing the sale and issuance of not to exceed 18 million aggregate principal amount of general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series, approving the forms of and authorizing the execution and delivery, purchase of agreements and continuing disclosure certificates, approving the forms and authorizing the method and review, approval by members of said board of one or more official statements, and authorizing the execution of necessary documents as certificates and related actions in connection therewith as presented above on April 8th, 2020.
Amen.
I'll take that as a second, Vita.
Yes.
I wasn't as fast as you, John.
Been moved by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mrs. Flores. That the board adopt resolution 1921. I'll leave it at that. As read. Roll call.
Mrs. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Hollingshead.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Great.
I gotta get to the next one.
Yeah.
The whole tree right here.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, 8I. We just did 1921, right? Now we're at 1922.
Right now.
Now we're at 1922.
Now
That was a lot of pages.
Yeah.
Item 8I, resolution number 19-22, a resolution of the Board of Education of the Santa Maria Bonita School District authorizing the execution and delivery of a ground lease, a lease agreement, trust agreement, an escrow agreement, certificate purchase agreement, and a continuing disclosure certificate with respect to the execution and delivery of Santa Maria Bonita School District refunding certificates of participation, authorizing the execution and delivery of such certificates evidencing principal in an aggregate amount of not to exceed $18 million, authorizing the distribution of an official statement in connection therewith, and authorizing the execution of necessary documents and certificates and related actions.
Do you ever wonder who thinks up all those words and why they are put together that way?
I apologize for that. We try to summarize it so that it meets the Brown Act disclosures.
I think you succeeded.
Yeah, that would be lawyers. Lawyers write titles like that. And they do that to keep us out of trouble so that we can do our business quickly and efficiently. But it does require the reading of 15-line agenda headers. But this is the other side of the refinancing. I believe that the first one is about the general obligation bonds. The second one is about the certificates of participation. Presentation that John and Adam went through contained information about both, but there may be some additional information they need to add as far as this refinancing in particular. So I'll hand it off again to that team.
Yeah, I would say, from our perspective, we went through the various savings, thresholds. We can just highlight that again. Here it is that Adam touched on with respect to the documents. It's structured a little bit differently, where you have a school site that is pledged as collateral to secure these, because it's a general fund, non-voter approved debt financing. That's the difference. You have a general fund credit-based versus a ad valorem property tax approved by the voters, which is what the TO bond is. So we'd be happy to address any more questions. And if you have questions on the long paragraph, we'll direct you to Don to deal with those. But we can address anything on the financing and the market in general.
So this basically just says, okay, we're going to authorize it. And then these are all of the agreements that we have that go along with this refinancing program.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I know Mrs. Flores and I have an advantage because we reviewed this yesterday. So unless Mr. Lara or Mr. Hollinshead have any comments or questions, I would move that the board adopt resolution 19-22, just as Mr. Hollinshead read it.
I'll
Dated-
second.
All right, moved
I'll
by Mrs.
third it.
Cordero, seconded by Mr. Lara, thirded by Mrs. Flores. The board will adopt resolution 1922, resolution of the Board of Education. I'm not reading it. Resolution 1922 as previously read. Roll call.
Mrs. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Hollinshead.
Aye. Motion passes. And I apologize for a little bit of levity, but in this at this juncture, that's probably what we all need, being a little punchy.
I don't know. I think probably during this time, this is past most of our deadlines.
Exactly. All right, so we're moving on. We have the added agenda item of item 8J, Resolution 1923, a resolution of the Board of Education of the Santa Maria Bonita School District designating public works projects as an essential governmental function. Mr. Beecher.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hollinshead. The district is in the middle of a crucial.
I can't hear you,
Can't
Matt.
hear you, Matt.
That's because I'm muted. Okay.
And he's sitting way farther than 6 feet away from me, so I can hear him, but
My apologies. I am still learning to unmute when I want to talk. So we do have an essential and critical construction project going on in the district right now. We saw some pictures in the earlier item of the Measure T School. I had heard news from the superintendent on the construction project that the PG&E had determined that our project was non-essential and that they weren't going to move forward with our connection to power to energize the site. Obviously that would be catastrophic to our ability to get the school opened on time. And so I set about trying to come up with ways to convince PG&E that our project was essential. And this resolution is one of those items. Districts in Alameda County and San Francisco Bay Area have taken similar resolutions to their school board based on the counties in that area and their more restrictive shelter in place orders that actually they had to have this resolution formally to post so that people knew that they were working on an essential project and they were an essential worker. And so either way, this is a good idea for us. PG&E ended up changing their mind after some of the information I shared with them directly from the governor's executive order or the linked references to the governor's executive order. But nonetheless, as we continue down the road, this may end up being essential to our ability to get the work done. I have heard in conversations in the CBO world that people are talking about making sure they have notes, right, that are like from the superintendent or the governing board saying, you know, I am a food service worker, I am an essential worker, and the work I do comports with the executive order from the governor, things like that. If things get really restricted, but we're not at that point yet, but this resolution will be something we can pull out if we need to keep the project rolling forward as best we can.
So the power is going still, and they're gonna be making the school hot then. They're gonna get up their transformers or whatever underground they gotta do to the school.
Right. So the other thing he shared with me, the individual from PG&E, as I was talking with him, was he did share that we also needed to pay our oversight fee. So we requested an emergency warrant from the county yesterday at about 1:10. I'm sorry, Monday at about 1:10. It came in yesterday afternoon. I put it in the mail yesterday evening, so they should have it before the end of the week, which means they'll pick up their work and begin to work on making sure we get a site inspection and making sure we get our installation correct, and then energizing us.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Can I ask a really obvious question? How are we doing on our progress aside from that?
So that is an interesting question. So about 5 weeks ago, when the sun was still shining every day, we were expecting that we were 50 days behind because of the way they do construction scheduling. I think every trade has its own calendar and due date, and the sum of the trades, because there were so many, I'm not going to say so many unresolved items, but some areas that were unresolved for a long time, they totaled a large number of days in delay for those trades. And some of those items recently have been cleared. So we're talking about deviations, right? We've talked about this before from other construction. So the plan said we're going to do A, B, and C. And because of conditions on the site, we might do A, C, and D. And A, C, and D then has to get approved at DSA before they can actually do that work. And so we had stuff that was stopped in the middle of the building, and I've been on tours with some of you and I pointed them out. Finally got those things cleared. And then they started working on that resolution of A, C, and D got approved. And so now we're installing A, C, and D. So a lot of those delays on the calendar got scraped away as those solutions got constructed on the site. And so now, as of last Thursday, I attended the construction meeting remotely. We're actually at a minus 12 days float. So they're 12 days ahead of schedule. As of last week's meeting, we've had a little bit of rain since then, but at this point, what Albert Giacomazzi is telling us is, and what we've been thinking all along, is we're going to get indoors pretty soon, right? Yeah. And all of our work's going to be indoors if it isn't site work. And once that happens, the weather won't matter anymore.
Right.
And once that happens, things are going to go really, really quickly. And so I'm excited to see that happen and continue. I was out at the site last week, Thursday morning, about 9 o'clock. Bijou Beltran and I went out there and walked around the site. And it's just amazing to watch it come together. They're starting to get paint on the inside. They're starting to get the texture on the walls on the inside, on the upper floor. It's really looking like classroom buildings and classrooms. It's exciting.
Wow. Good
Awesome.
to hear.
Nice.
Good to hear.
Good for 12 days ahead. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'll move that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 19-23, a resolution of the Board of Education of the Santa Maria Bonita School District to designate public works projects as essential governmental functions, including the Measure T School as presented April 8th, 2020.
I'll second.
Been moved by Mrs. Cordero, seconded by Mr. Lara, that the board adopt resolution 19-23, a resolution of the Board of Education of Santa Maria Bonita School District designating public works projects as essential government function. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Flores,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Hollenbeck.
Aye. Motion passes. Well, there it is. There is no discussion.
Item.
Pardon?
There's
No
no
discussion.
No.
No. I said it briefly earlier during closed session report out, and I don't know that we can probably say it enough, or we won't, and we certainly won't quit saying it, but thank yous and admiration to the folks sitting in the room with me right now, you guys at home, obviously, but most importantly, our teachers and our classified folks who are out every day engaged with our students in what capacity they can be, either in an online capacity teaching, handing out lunches, any number of other support issues, either here or on sites as able. I live just down the street from Miller School and went over and was there for one of the days that they were handing out lunches, and I spoke with Trinity Hamilton and Lori Grock and the others folks who were there handing out lunches, and just watched the parade of vehicles coming into the parking lot, very organized, in a very organized fashion, and also the walk-up folks, and seeing the appreciation of the families and whatnot. And I've also had the chance to interface with some of the teachers, and while there are a lot of new and unforeseen obstacles for them to overcome and deal with, I think they're all really rising above and beyond, really rising to the occasion, and then performing above and beyond what I think maybe some of them expected, but I think the prevailing notion, and this is even from someone I spoke to today, was that this is one of those things that is making me seek to be a better at what I do, and push the thresholds for what it is and I do, and how I do it. So I think it's in these times like this where people really show their merit, and I think we've got great people in this district all around, and they're doing just so. So I don't have I guess that was a board report. I don't really have anything other than that, than the obvious. Anybody else have anything to add?
Except I teach every day now. That's it. I'm on distant learning with 2.
Okay.
So back out of retirement.
See how the frying pan into the fire? Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we made it through our first Zoom meeting as a board, so.
Yeah, congratulations, everybody. This was quite a
Yeah.
undertaking.
And I would just echo John's sentiments regarding the efforts that everyone is putting into making this all work. And really the outreach to our students and the care and concern that has been shown in so many ways. The positive interactions and things just, I mean, there have been a few things on TV. There's been a ton of things on social media. So we are moving in the right direction, and I just cannot tell everyone enough how appreciative I am of the ginormous efforts that this has taken, because I know people have been working hard. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Luke,
Yes.
thank you too. You've
Yes.
done a great job organizing and keeping us informed. I know this is a huge time for a lot of people too, with illnesses that are going on, and it's just a crazy time. It's a very unreal time. So thanking Luke for keeping us informed, on track. Everybody needs to stay healthy too. Much appreciated.
So far, so good at our house.
Same here.
I think the dynamics are as you know so many people, you're beginning to know people that where the coronavirus is affecting them. So that's a very interesting dynamic in itself. So that's why I say, you know, stay home. I can't say it enough. You are not having to go out, stay home.
Mr. Ontiveros?
It's hard to believe that it turned into one of those old guys who felt like I'd just seen everything.
No.
We couldn't hear what he said.
Is he muted?
He's muted.
Can't even read his lips.
I apologize. I did mute because we were getting a little feedback just amongst each other here on the dais. I said, you know, I never thought I'd be one of those old guys who said, I've seen just about everything there is to see until the last month. You know, this has been the longest year I can recall, but it really has borne everything that each of the board members has described. You know, this meeting tonight being an example. And until a month ago, I thought Zoom was an old PBS kids show. And now we do 8 or 9 of these Zoom meetings a day. And I want to give credit to Brian and the whole IT team has really built the plane in the air from the get-go, getting phones out to folks to be able to, direct phone calls to schools and departments to people that are working at home, because we really are committed to keeping people as safe as we possibly can and still meeting the requirements of the governor's order, which is distributing, as of today, 225,000 breakfasts and lunches have been distributed during this first 18 days of this closure. So, I mean, it's just phenomenal to think about what's occurred, and also to stop and realize we don't even know where we are in this, in this journey. But it does really show what we can accomplish when we do work together. And, it's just incredible to think that a month ago we were in school, involved in some very meaningful professional development that we were, working toward. And tomorrow will be 4 weeks to the day that the governor issued his executive order. So, so it's the shelter in place order. And so we just keep every day, do the math, solve the problem, move on to the next problem, and learn from it. So I want to thank everybody. And I appreciate your thanks, but without the team that we have within this building and across this district, none of what's been accomplished to date would be at all possible. But we do learn from it is we do work better as a team.
Well, I would just say that based on what I've heard and seen, we are leading the way in this county for sure.
I would not disagree. We're in county conference calls 3-4 times a week, and there's not much that we're really gaining from those conversations, but we are helping to support our neighbors like we all are in every community.
True, so true. Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
All right. And with that, we are adjourned.